Hello everyone and welcome to the top 8 of Pro Tour Dragons Maze 2013. Rich Hagan, Brian David Marshall and Louis Scott Vargas with you in the booth. We are going to start with the player of the year, and that is Josh Utter-Leyton of the United States. You see his opponent Andrejs Shrout there, Johnny Hot Sauce, the Magic Online competitor. We are underway, and a Foundry Street Denizen is the first play of this top 8 from Josh Utter-Leyton, the player of the year. He has a 2-drop. It's a Gorehouse Chainwalker. Of course, it's unleashed, and BDM, we're into the action pretty swiftly.
Yeah, I mean, Luis, I guess Josh's ideal draw there is obviously a Burning Tree Emissary into Gorehouse Chainwalker and bash for 3.
Yeah, I mean, the Boros ideal draw always has Burning Tree Emissary, as many as you can get.
At least one of them, yeah.
Nonetheless, there's plenty of power sitting there already on the table for even without a Foundry Street Denizen boost.
Yeah, and Josh has the Legion's Initiative in hand, and what's pretty key in this match is having either Initiative or Boros Charm to make sure that the Supreme Verdict doesn't really get you. Boros Charm's much better because Josh can't go Guy, Legion's Initiative, and play around Wrath, this turn at least, but just having access to those cards does make you a lot more resilient against Shrout's best card, which is the Verdict.
Already we see that even though Josh is playing a very quick deck, he's still making sure he takes his time over his plays. His turn 3 play is Legion's Initiative, +1/+0 for the red creatures, but more importantly, let's avoid Supreme Verdict. In he comes.
There you get a look at Legion's Initiative on your screen. You know, it's easy. I know I certainly think of this as a red-white crusade, but you know, it has a whole other paragraph of text which just spits in the eye of Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, and that's like the main reason it's in there. Obviously, the +1 power is pretty good, especially against, you know, this guy Jace. But the main reason that you play the card is to give Boros outs to Supreme Verdict, which Josh is actually playing around. He could have played a Cackler last turn, but just decided that he didn't want to overcommit to the board.
So Andrejs Shrout's first significant play is Jace, Architect of Thought. Loyalty will go up to 5. So opposing creatures will get -1 on their attack. So potentially that blanks Foundry Street Denizen, although Josh will obviously be hoping to turn it back on.
Yeah, here is where having that initiative in play would have been great. He could have just killed the Jace, but right now it's going to be tough. He has to like start attacking Jace instead of Shrout, which is not really where you want to be.
So down comes another Gorehouse Chainwalker. Again, it will be unleashed, and we're going to send that at Jace, so the loyalty will tick down, but only by 3, not by 5, because Jace gets to protect himself.
Get a little look at what Andrejs Shrout has to work with here. Obviously, Josh Utter-Leyton is thinking, you know, does he have Supreme Verdict? But we know he's got Jace, Architect of Thought, Sphinx's Revelation, and one of 2 Prophetic Prisms, and he just prismed into...
Prism.
Luis, is Josh's deck designed to get through one Sphinx's Revelation, or is it really the one is backbreaking most of the time?
It's designed to get to not have it get to the point where you can cast a big Revelation, and like for example, this game Josh did slow play a little bit because of Wrath, like he didn't commit another creature, but now that Jace is out, he's probably at a point where he has to just play his guys and just hope that Shrout doesn't have a Wrath, which, you know, he doesn't so far, and his behavior indicated that, like he would have played it instead of the Prisms last turn.
So Jace bites the dust. That is probably not the last time we'll be saying that in this top 8. And as you'd expect, pretty much all the non-land permanents on one side of the table.
Well, one of the really nice things about this Azorius control deck is that they get to play Renounce the Guilds, which a lot of the other decks just didn't go for.
Yeah, you basically had to choose between Renounce and Detention Sphere, like the 2 big ones, and we ended up going with Detention Sphere, but Renounce is also very good.
And Renounce sort of trumps Detention Sphere to some extent.
Yeah, it definitely is a pretty brutal against Detention Sphere.
And you see the Renounce the Guild sitting in the left of Andrejs Shrout's hand right now.
I'll show you what he's got to work with. Thought Flare is kind of a surprising card to see at this Pro Tour.
Yeah, it's a sweet one. We had Thought Flares in a couple lists, but unfortunately ended up not being able to play it. I do suspect he boards it out in this matchup, though.
A little bit clunky? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
No one wants to cast Tidings against the red deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... You generally do not have time for that. At least a Revelation for 2 gains you 2, but Thought Flare is like not impacting the board at all.
Ref for 2.
So Revelation for 2. So for those of you unfamiliar with the card, you'll be getting familiar with it today, but that's draw 2 and gain 2 life.
Yeah, Shrout could have played a Jace there, but he had no way to protect it, and it would just have died. So instead of just playing it as like a gain 6 or gain 7, I think he's at a high enough life total that he'd rather draw a couple and try to hope to hit a Wrath and then cast a Jace. But right now he doesn't have the Wrath, and Renounce the Guilds is not going to do a ton of work. It's going to kill a Cackler,
Yeah.
which is fine, but
I mean,
not really what he's hoping for at this point.
So, in they come, and they're totting up the math. And Andrejs Shrout is going to be on not very much at the end of that attack.
Yeah. And here Josh definitely doesn't need to play more creatures because he's winning unless he's got a Wrath, so there's no reason to just throw away more cards into it.
we see that Josh has, he's got a little army there to go, post Wrath.
Turns out that Esper Control can win things pretty quickly too. The first game of the top 8 has gone to Dusty Ochoa over Rob Castellon, the level 2 judge. Esper Control found that Rob Castellon stumbled a little bit on mana, and then Aetherling came down and smashed face. That's what Aetherling does.
Yeah, so Andrejs Shrout's only out here. He played it perfectly. It was just to play Prophetic Prism, hope to draw Wrath. Unfortunately, he missed the second part of it, and yeah, we're going to be moving to game 2.
Hey, he did draw a card, but it wasn't Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, he couldn't have cast any of his more expensive card draw spells because, again, Verdict's like really the only relevant thing here. Josh is just going to...
Does Josh play like a... He just plays that to pump that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you might as well at this point, like...
Because he's thinking about a small Sphinx's Revelation there.
Or
like making sure
maybe like a turn burn or like multiple or something.
So that's game 1 to Josh Utter-Leyton.
Right. Just keep on drawing Wrath, and I'll be all right.
Dak Faden is the greatest thief in the multiverse. Follow his adventures in the Magic the Gathering comic produced by IDW. A special promo card unique to the IDW comic series comes in each issue. Find out more about these comics at wizards.com/magic merchandise. More news coming in. BDM, we hear that Craig Wescoe has taken the lead over Andre Prost 1-0 in the princely amount of 4, count them, 4 turns.
Yeah.
So right now, what we're looking at is the sideboards for this match between Josh Utter-Leyton and Andrejs Shrout. And we saw a lot of cards in Andrew's hand that are likely coming out.
Yeah, I mean, he's for sure, or not for sure, but like we assumed he was taking out Thought Flare when we were testing yesterday. Also, Pentad Prism.
I was just going to ask
Prism.
about that.
Yeah.
That just seemed like a very dirtily card, to use one of your favorite phrases.
Yeah. Just because he's not boarding in Rakdos' return, he doesn't really need and doesn't have the time or need to fix his mana quite so much. Like.
So here we take a look at Andrejs Shrout's sideboard. So I would assume, and you tell me if I'm crazy, that Boros Reckoner and Mugging come in.
Yeah, Boros Reckoner, Mugging, and Dramatic Rescue, I think, are the 6 that he's like almost for sure bringing in.
But if you're going to have Aetherize in your sideboard, is there ever a deck you want Aetherize against more than this deck?
I mean, I think it's mainly,
or do you just not want Aetherize?
Well, it's we actually played with it, and it's mainly against green white, but I think he does bring maybe 1 or 2 in here.
Okay.
Just because he does have a number of like Thought Flares and Counterfluxes and Pentad Prisms that I don't think he wants in his deck.
Right. He can take out 2 Thought Flares, 3 Counterfluxes. And is it 3 Pentad Prisms?
Prophetic Prism, yeah.
Prophetic Prism, yeah.
But the big question that we were trying to ask ourselves was, does he want Dispel or not? Since it's really only for Boros Charm, but countering Boros Charm is so huge. So we weren't sure. Ben Stark said he thought Dispel would be good in the deck. We probably lean towards him not boarding Dispel or maybe just keeping like 1. But it is possible that he wants those as well. In which case, Aetherize is a little harder to fit.
He might almost need to bring it in though, just that because he has so many cards he wants to take out.
Yeah, I mean, he at that point he would have to start cutting into some of his other cards, like possibly the Assemble the Legion is well, Assemble Legion we thought was actually going to go out as well. It's There's not a whole lot else that's actually bad, though. All the charms, the turn and burns, the renounces are good. All the like cheap interactive cards he wants.
Let's see if we can take a look at what Josh Utter-Leyton might be up to in the sideboarding department. There you get a look.
And this is always interesting because if Josh knows or suspects that Boris Reckoner's coming in, he needs to deal with that card, right?
Yeah, and that I mean it basically is coming in. So he's got to bring in the arrests for it. Is what we concluded. Just having an answer to Reckoner is very important because otherwise it kind of brick walls you.
Right.
And then he's also got Viashino First Blades, which is their anti-control technology, which is pretty awesome.
I'm a big fan of the First Blade. I was surprised to not see it in some of the Boros main decks.
Yeah, it's basically against control a char that leaves a 2/2. So, which is good. I mean, that's exactly what you want. It's very resilient to Wrath. It's a great post-Wrath play. It's a way to do a bunch of damage without really committing too much more to the board.
Does he bring in an extra Legions initiative?
Yeah, I think this is what it's mainly for. He's definitely cutting all the Mizium Mortars, and then the numbers that are a little harder to tell are how many Legion Loyalists and frontline medics you want in the deck. Medic is good against Revelation and Boros Reckoner, but Viashino First Blade is also a 3-drop. You can't play too many in a deck like this. And then Legion Loyalist is not hugely high impact. The abilities don't do that much, but you still like it to pump Foundry Street Denizen and give you Battalion for Fire
Right, the deck needs a critical amount of red cards, red creatures specifically, and a critical amount of plays on the first 2 turns.
Yeah. One funny play that's come a few times is everyone thinks Legion Initiative is +1/+0, but with Frontline Medic, it's actually +0/+1, and it's come up that no one right. that because it never happens. So it would be interesting to see if that ever actually rears its head.
Right, Legion Initiative pumps the power of red creatures and the toughness of white creatures.
Yeah, so
that's a sad Boros Reckoner.
Yeah.
I can tell you that all 4 quarterfinals are heading for Game 2 because Makihito Mihara has taken the lead over Matej Zatlkaj of the Slovak Republic. In this one, remember this is the Esper Control Mirror, Mihara got down Aetherling and Matej said, well, that's fair enough. I can dig for answers. And how? With Sphinx's Revelation, he got off a huge one. And then he revealed a hand of 10 land. And that is how Mihara leads 1-0.
I will play.
Yeah, that's an interesting result because I thought Matej was very favored game 1 because he had 4 Sing Collectors, more counterspells, more Revelations, but Aetherling is just trumps all of those cards.
And really the only player in that match who has an answer to Aetherling after sideboard is Mihara.
Yeah,
he's got the Debtor's Pulpit, which is a sweet card you guys were talking about.
Yeah, all of our junk players play Debtor's Pulpit in their sideboard. We considered it, but decided not to play it in our Esper deck. But it is very good against Aetherling. That is what it is for. Although junk is also concerned with Blood Baron, which it also stops.
Sure.
So the players are looking at their opening hands for Game 2 of the quarterfinals. You see on your screen, Utter-Leyton leads by 1-0. And Shrout is deciding he's going to keep, but not for Josh Utter-Leyton. How aggressively, Luis, do you have to mulligan when you're playing this super aggressive deck that Josh is playing?
You have to mulligan about as aggressively as the deck is, which is, to say a lot, just because the deck, it's built to play its first 3 turns, and if they don't come out smoothly, then you can't really win a late game very easily. I mean, there are late games you win, but for the most part, if you don't have, any hand without a 1-drop is basically an auto mulligan unless it's got a bunch of burning trees.
Right, it's not like Limited where you could look at a hand with land, frontline medic, and go, oh yeah, I can build something with this. Yeah, that's your end game.
That's probably a good hand in Limited.
Yeah.
Whereas and any hand with 4 more lands is a very almost assuredly a mulligan. So
we saw that Andrew Shrout was holding a Renounce the Guilds.
Yeah.
And not a card he's going to side out because of Legion's Initiative, I'm assuming.
Legion's Initiative, but the fact that it also kills Cackler and Burning Tree Emissary is just good. You just want a spell that you play in the first couple turns that does something. It is pretty high variance because if Josh opens with Foundry Street Denizen into Gorehouse Chainwalker, the Renounce does nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas if he goes Cackler, turn 1, then Renounce becomes very good.
Right. Becomes a huge vitamin for him, right?
Yeah, I mean, it gains him 6 or 8 life basically because the 1-drop usually deals that much.
So Josh mulliganing to 6, Shrout keeping his 7. Of course, remember Andrew Shrout, no stranger to high-level Magic. He was at the Magic Online Championship Series at PAX East at Boston a few months ago. But this is his debut on the Pro Tour, and he has something more at stake than just the Pro Tour. If he wins the whole thing, he will overtake Felipe Tapia Becerra of Chile for Rookie of the Year.
But to do that, he needs to beat the Player of the Year,
That's right.
Josh Utter-Leyton.
So Josh is looking at 6. We see an arrest there. There's a Burning Tree Emissary.
Yep.
And he's going to keep that 6. So away we go. It's a Hallowed Fountain tapped, so no damage to Shrout. Temple Garden the other way, so no 1-drop for Josh.
But he did peel a land. He kept a 1-lander there, so him drawing that second land.
Not all bad.
Which is actually, and this is part of the technology, it's a plains that cast Burning Tree Emissary.
So, so Burning Tree Emissary into Gorehouse Chainwalker, but there's the target for Renounce the Guilds. Each player sacrifices a multicolored permanent. Well, it turns out that only meant Josh Utter-Leyton, and that's the way that Shrout draws it up. Gorehouse Chainwalker goes in, but Shrout again with early answers says, here's Azorius Charm, let's stick that back on top. Yes, sure, that's fine, you can unleash that. I'm at a very healthy 20 life right now, and this has been a good opening for Andrew Shrout.
And he doesn't have a lot of action in his hand, but he does have he can buy himself a lot of turns, it looks like here, with Renounce the Guilds and Aetherize, and then, oh, there's a Boros Reckoner.
Yeah, which is an anti-combo with Renounce the Guilds, so it looks like he wants to use the Renounce before casting the Reckoner, but Andrew is in a very good position here. He does need to draw a Revelation, a Jace, or an Aetherling to kind of lock it up, but he's got a lot of turns to do that.
Well, let's take a look at what Josh has going on in his hand. And we see double arrest, the cards you talked about, him bringing in from the sideboard, the Boros Charm, and a frontline medic.
Yeah, so Josh has actually got a lot of gas because he's landlight, so it means that he could potentially win this long game here. Just because Shrout has all cheap answers, which is exactly what he wants, but no actual finisher, and Josh, if he only draws 3 land and all spells, could actually outspell him, which is difficult to do, but ends up happening sometimes.
That looks like land number 3 there.
Yeah, so basically if he stops after this, then he's in actually decent shape.
So we'll arrest the Boros Reckoner, and then in comes Gorehouse Chainwalker for 3.
Like, right now, Shroud's actually on no real answer to the Chainwalker.
Yeah. Thing is, it all changes in a moment with a Revelation, because you look at the land ticking up there, that's already 6 land, so you're already at a Sphinx's Revelation for 3, has another land in hand.
Frontline medic can make that a little bit of a problem, though.
Yeah, medic's secret hidden clause of actually countering Revelations. Though an Aetherize is probably Shroud's best draw here, or not an Aetherize, an Aetherling, just because slamming it and stopping offense and also just killing Josh is pretty crucial. Is that what that was? I guess not.
Land number 7. 2 cards in hand for Shroud. Josh still with plenty going on.
He does have a Sphinx's Revelation here.
But unfortunately, it'll be for 1 unless he wants to get it countered by the medic. Now Josh is in an interesting spot because he has the Boros Charm for the Verdict, but he kind of thinks that Shrout would have used a Verdict if he had it. So I don't know what his Verdict is, but I think he can either drop another frontline medic or he can just pass, hope to draw a 5th land, and keep Boros Charm up when he plays that 2nd medic. I think the fact that he's got lethal on the board does lead to not wanting to play another creature, though.
Ref for 4.
Revelation for 4.
Yeah, I think Shrout didn't realize that the medic would do that, because otherwise you wanted to do it before Josh hit him with the medic.
Sure. How do you not realize that, though?
I've actually done that myself. It's pretty easy, because medic, again, that's flavor text on the medic. no one ever uses that. So what he wanted to do there was when Josh attacked Rev for 4, because that way if the medic counters it, he at least doesn't take 3 from the medic.
Jace.
Here's Jace, Architect of Thought, trying to slow the bleeding, of which there's been quite a lot already.
Blank, really. I mean, Supreme Verdict's not a blank, but we know that Josh can finish this game out with an attack and a Boros Charm.
Yeah, this game's actually over, I think, since Shrout can't cast either of his 4-mana spells. I mean, I guess he could actually take the 2 lands and then Aetherize the Gorehouse, but that's not really a heads-up play. That's not actually going to let him win the game. Like, he's thinking about it. I mean, I think his first instinct is correct. Like, he does die to Boros Charm here, but he's actually not beating a Boros Charm, I don't think, if he does use Aetherize. So, I think he's in a tough spot either way.
It might have. I wanted it to.
Yeah.
But
it was worth a shot.
How different is this game if he Sphinx's Revelations during combat for that frontline medic?
He ends up at 9 right now, which means he's not dead. I
But
think
there's probably another frontline medic on the board right now.
Yeah, there would be another frontline medic on the board, so I think it doesn't change that much. So Josh has to wonder what his last card is that he took the land.
But then his Aetherize is live this turn.
Yeah, it is much better. So it looks like Josh is just going to Boros Charm him.
I think the takeaway from that last 30 seconds was that remembering the frontline medic Sphinx's Revelation interaction would be generally good.
Yeah, this game is actually not that over right now because Aetherizing and then using Jace's -2 to find a Wrath could let him win the game here.
So Josh taps 2 mountains. And then has a little pause before simply relaying the Gorehouse
Well, he's
Chainwalker.
deciding if he wants to play both.
Yeah, he's going to play Burning Tree no matter what. He's deciding whether he wants to follow it up with a Medic or a Gorehouse. I think the Medic is a little better because that way he Shrout can't flip a Revelation and win.
So back to Andrew Shrout. What have we got? 2 cards.
Mugging was a good one.
That Jace is about to not have 2 loyalty on.
Yeah.
How many will it have? Answer, none.
Yeah, if he flips an answer to Medic here, then he's not dead. Well, Wrath was a good one.
So a much easier decision for Shrout this time.
I would say so. Yeah, once he wraths away the 2 creatures, then has a mugging for Josh's Chainwalker. This game's kind of at parity, except Shroud's at 2, and Josh can also but could also draw any good answer.
So here's a frontline medic.
He just drew a frontline medic, which
Yeah.
trumps that mugging.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, it can't block.
Yeah, it's true. A mugging is about to happen, but it's not the one that Shrout wanted.
Yes.
But he did draw an Azorius Charm.
All right, this is a back and forth game. At any point, Shrout could just draw like another Revelation or an Aetherling and have a pretty good shot. Of course, Josh has a bunch of Boros Charms and Viashino First Blades. That would not be bad draws either.
Shrout passes back. Josh up to 3 cards in hand will send the frontline medic. It will be sent packing to the top of his library.
Wow, that sounds like some exciting magic on
definitely.
the back table.
Yeah, so Rob Castellon, he had a Slaughter Games, and that made Dusty Ochoa quite upset that his Aetherlings went away, so he decided to ultimate a Jace, and now he's got a Deadridge shot going. Oh dear.
That's pretty impressive.
I knew that card was good.
So Andrew has drawn an Aetherize here, so now we're back at kind of the same place.
Spot we were.
Yeah.
Take a look at.
So Andrew passes the turn.
Also,
Obviously,
he
there's
did bring in the
lethal.
Dispel, we see.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Boros Charm is, again, one of Josh's best cards in the matchup.
So more
Josh is
Aetherize.
just trying to get that last 2 points of damage across.
Well, it's actually
Last
just 1
point
though,
of
yeah,
damage,
because he got to whack him with the Foundry Street Denizen for the cool 1.
I'm going to say, you don't whack people with Foundry Street Denizens. You gently prop them, surely.
Well, the flavor text has a lot about cudgels, so
Fair,
that's what I
okay.
always imagine them using.
Okay. I can tell you that it's 1-1 now between Mihara and Matej Zatlkaj.
All right.
And that's it. Andrew Shrout wrecks his draw. And
Yeah. So it looks like the extra 3 life from the Revelation would not have actually done a ton there.
So we're going to head across to Table C. We'd like to thank Gaming Etc. for being an official card retailer here at Pro Tour Dragons Maze. Use the promo code PTSAN when ordering on GamingEtc.com to earn 10% of all singles and accessories. For more information, visit GamingEtc.com. So we're at 1-1 in Matej Zatlkaj and Makihito Mihara. 1-0 Ochoa over Castellon. Josh Utter-Leyton now 2 up with 3 to play against Andrejs Shrout, and Craig Wescoe is 1 up over Andrejs Prost, and that is where we are going to head next to see those two in action. And you have Craig Wescoe, known throughout the world as the master of the white weenie kind of deck, and that's pretty much what we're seeing in action for him this time around, up against Andrejs Prost, who is very busy with Azorius control. So there you see the players. Let's take a look at them. Craig Wescoe on the right of screen, Andrejs Prost on the left. Craig Wescoe has made 3 successive California Pro Tour top 8s.
It looks like that looks like a Civic Saber.
Yeah, there's some funny things going on in this match. The one of Civic Saber and Wescoe's deck, the Reckoners in Andrejs' deck with 10 islands in the deck.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have an Experiment 1 with Civic Saber on, already with 1 Evolve counter. There's 2 Evolve counters on that Experiment 1 that Wescoe has just tapped, and you see Azorius Charm from Andrejs Prost saying, let's put that back on top. He has Jace, Architect of Thought, with 4 loyalty counters on. He has Precinct Captain, and he has a Soldier Soak, which is just biting the dust, but may well be back via Precinct Captain.
Yeah, I think post-board, once Andrejs can bring in Captains and Reckoners, it gets a lot better for him than pre-board. He gets to take out all the like useless counter spells, basically.
And if he wants even more creatures, he's got 2 Keening Apparitions just to to sort of gum things up.
Yeah, I imagine he also wants Angel Serenity, and then Dispel is also, of the counters, it's by far the best one, because it counters Advent and Rootborn Defenses and Celestia Charm for just 1 mana.
So we're going to see Celestia Charm from Wescoe, and that is going to be +2/+2.
Because this doesn't pump.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, 4/4. So you trample for 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
It will not surprise you to learn that Dusty Ochoa now leads Rob Castellon 2-0, because one of the best bits of Rob Castellon's deck was Deadbridge Chant, and that got used by Dusty Ochoa in Game 2.
So you're saying Prost just brings in his all 15 cards against Wescoe?
Just about.
He could.
My guess is that he doesn't bring in the Keening Apparitions, but I think everything else comes in. Maybe not all 3 Dispels, but I think Angel is probably your better expensive spell. You might not want both just because Wescoe's deck is very fast, but against white-green, that is one of the reasons it's there. Also, both players classily playing beta lands. I like it.
Sure.
Oh, here's another Experiment 1, which at this relatively late stage of the game may not be doing a ton of evolving. And Craig just trying to decide whether he wants to shove the Civic Saber across, but he just passes the turn.
Because the Jace had activated.
Thank you.
So Andrejs untaps. You see he's got a Boros Reckoner in hand. He's just drawn 1 of those 10 islands that are in his deck.
Same thing, right? This is his attack.
I'm used to attack
+1
with my
Jace.
planeswalkers.
So +1.
Yeah, you are.
Jace.
Let's see. Attack for 2.
Attack for 2.
Prost is the beatdown this game. He's got Wescoe down to 6 and is about to have more creatures in play.
Also, I mean, you've obviously played against these guys more than either of us, Luis, but it seems to me like they're pretty chatty for a Pro Tour top 8. There's quite a lot of sort of, oh, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. Oh, yeah, that's fine.
It's
this
more
is the
murmury. They're kind of like
yeah, rumble.
Yeah, I think that just depends player to player. Like, when I played against Ari Lax, we had a reasonable amount of banter going on, even though it was a very big match.
I mean, the second time you've crushed Ari's hopes and dreams, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. This was a much rougher spot than last time when I played him in Kyoto when he could make top 8 if he beat me.
I mean, this was straightforwardly for at least $20,000 US.
Yeah, we were
functionally you were playing for platinum.
We were both at 30 points, 30 or 32, where a top 16 makes you platinum and top 25 does not. So that was the spot we were in.
Boros Reckoner does what it does.
Yeah, we're all done, and that means that match is tied at 1-1. I can tell you that we are going to go and take a look at Dusty Ochoa against Rob Castellon, because Ochoa leads 2-0, and we want to make sure we get a look at Rob Castellon because he has been just a tremendous story BDM through this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Person playing in his first Pro Tour. Doesn't really even have much Grand Prix experience.
Show the world you watch the Pro Tour coverage with the Eyes on the Prize achievement. Just log on to planeswalkerpoints.com and enter the redemption code MAZERUNNER to earn your reward.
Yeah, Rob Castellon's story is like kind of like the dream of every PTQ player watching at home, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna go to a PTQ, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna go to my first Pro Tour, and I'm gonna build a deck with my friends. You know, I don't have a super team. I'm hanging out with my buddies. I'm gonna build a deck, and it's gonna turn out to be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna identify a card that Luis Scott Vargas doesn't identify. You know what I mean? Like that's something to be really proud of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and his deck is one of certainly the most rogue deck in the top 8.
You're telling me, I went through the sideboard, there are 9 cards in that sideboard that feature nowhere in the other 7 decks in the top 8. Yeah, I was looking up Rob Castellon's side, I was just like, he's playing what now? And the what? And the really? Yeah. So
I do wish he had a couple more gates in his sideboard so he could win with Maze's End, but
I mean, surely that must have crossed his mind because you look at his deck list and he's got an Orzhov, a Gruul, a Boros, a Golgari, a Rakdos, 3 Selesnya. It's like, how hard can it be? You're 60% of the way there, Rob. Live a little.
yeah.
I mean, the Maze's End is obviously just there for the control matchup.
Yeah, and all the gates in the main deck are there because of Gate Creeper Bind, which is a nice one.
Which turned out to be a really strong card this weekend.
Yeah, basically all the Bant control decks played it. Any other basically any green control deck, featuring any number of colors, played Gate Creeper Binds. It ended up doing a good amount of work.
So, Castellon on the right, Ochoa on the left, gearing up for game 3. And so far, Ochoa has had all the answers. Sometimes they've been Castellon's answers.
Shrout told us to stop and then never came back.
Yeah, you guys are on camera right now. You're good to go.
Good.
Yeah, you're on the stream.
So we're
Go ahead.
away with a Guild Gate of the Selesnya variety. And it's a Zorius Guild Gate the other way. In fact, it's a proper gate fest to get us going.
The hidden downside of gates here, where them coming to play tapped has made it so Dusty can't cast Syncopate and Rob couldn't cast his 2-drops. But that's the price you pay for having good mana.
So neither of them got to come out of the gate.
The price you pay for having good mana is you don't get to use it. It's like the slip covers on Grandma's couch.
Yeah.
The plastic covers.
Jerry's opponent yesterday had one of the best quotes. Jerry played against the Maze's End deck, and the guy lost the die roll. And the guy's like, after the match, the guy's like, yeah, I can handle going second, but when I have to go third, it's really tough to win.
Lovely. All right, so it's early action. It's all the fun of the lands.
And we actually have a look at the player's hands. We're looking right now over the shoulder of Rob Castellon. We see he's got a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah, he has a Rakdos Guildgate, but he would really like
To draw
either a black or red source so he can start casting Slaughter Games, Blood Barons, and the Sire.
But it is Temple Garden, yet another interplay tapped.
And on the other side of the table,
Voice of Resurgence is going to do some work here.
covers.
It kind of blanks the Syncopate in Dusty's hand, or at least makes it much worse, and that is pretty significant.
yeah, I love watching a small counter battle with a Voice of Resurgence in play.
Alms Beast was actually a pretty good draw. It's just a 6-power threat is
Go ahead.
not trivial.
I can tell you that Ochoa ultimated Jace in game 2 for the first time in his life. He literally had to see just what the thing did. He had to read the ultimate.
There we get a look at what happens with Voice of Resurgence.
Basics
Why
on
that
there?
card's been so good that you just have some play automatically post Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that it gives you like a 2/2 or a 3/3 post verdict is a pretty good amount of value.
But we have a post verdict, I believe, coming up
Yeah,
here.
that is the classic answer to it.
If you take a look at Ochoa's hand, which is stocked.
Yeah, he has infinite cards, which means that he just wants to buy as much time as possible, which is why he's just running out verdict after verdict, so he can kind of get use out of his Aetherling and his Jace and whatnot.
And he finds that 5th land.
So let's have another go at the potentially utterly crazy Blood Baron of Viscopa.
Now, if somehow Castellon can stick that Sire of Insanity, all
Yeah.
those cards go away.
Yeah, actually, I think that's what's going to happen, because I think Dusty's just going to play a Jace here, and then Sire is going to make this game hugely in Rob's favor.
Wow.
Sire is a powerful card.
And there's no temptation to resolve that Slaughter Games first.
I don't think so. Not against a hand of 6 cards. Like that, that would just be insane.
And
So we're going to see the mini fact or fiction, as it were. 3 spells that are going to flip
Give
over.
him 2 supreme verdicts.
Sphinx's Revelation.
Two Sphinx's Revelations.
It's pretty brutal because actually, if Dusty hit a land here and took it, he could syncopate the Sire for 1 if Rob didn't draw a land. But because he didn't hit a land, I have a hard time imagining that this game doesn't come down to 2 creatures versus no cards in play and no hand. Because the Blood Baron's probably eating the Jace.
Wow.
That is what is about to hit the bin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For Dusty Ochoa.
He's trying to decide what to discard, not knowing that it's actually just
Just
going to be
all of
them.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of 29 mana and a couple of X's
Yeah.
about to go away.
Discards a Psychic Strike. Psychic Strike says, come on in, boys. The water's fine.
Oh yeah, slamming the Sire.
Big smash. Jace is going. Yeah, I'm just going to make sure Jace dies before your whole hand
ahead,
goes
trigger.
away.
All right.
See ya.
A verdict off the top is basically the best you can hope for here, but at least we get to find out what card he draws very quickly because you can't really stockpile it.
The operator of the push tool for the
Yeah.
hands is like, thank God.
Yeah. He's got one. Dusty's got one more draw step here.
And there you go. So, Rob Castellon, well done to him. He takes game 3.
You famously came back in the quarterfinals, down 2 games to none. And actually, just even a
It's
question.
fun for everyone.
So at some point in this
It's fun
tournament,
for everyone.
you are 1-3,
Yeah.
or you're in the top 8 and you're
Yeah.
0-2.
I was really doing it for Baneswanger.
Can't wait to try out new Return to Ravnica block constructed and boosted draft strategies straight from the Pro Tour. Log on to Magic Online and take part in special block constructed spotlight events, block constructed 2-man gold queues, and Dragon's Maze limited tournaments all weekend. For more information, visit mtgonline.com.
So before I was rudely interrupting the ad, I was just asking you, how do you stay calm and level when you're in a sort of brink of elimination situation? Like, what was going through your head in round 5 when you're 1-3 and you're like, well, I guess I'm not platinum?
Yeah, the main thing, the conclusion that I came to and have generally come to is like, there's plenty of time to, reflect on what happened and to mope about your loss and to, get angry or whatever range of emotions you want to experience. But you should just not do it while the tournament's going on.
So I can tell you that we are going to go back to the front table, that is, to the match between Josh Utter-Leyton and Andrew Shrout, where Josh Utter-Leyton leads by 2-0.
Yeah, Shroud actually just resolved a pretty reasonably sized Revelation for 3 here, but it looked like he kind of bricked. He's got a lot of lands in his hand.
So 18-13 is the live total right now.
Deck's almost half land, right?
18-11.
Yeah. I think it's the actual 5 lands. Though he's got a reasonably healthy life total, but he really needs a gas spell at some point.
So Josh will send in for another 2.
18-9.
Yes.
The char that keeps on giving.
Yep.
Such a lovely card. And then Gorehouse Chainwalker, of course it's unleashed, why wouldn't it be? Shrout drawing not much,
there we
but
go.
there's a Revelation. And that can be for 7.
Yeah, I'm imagining that the player who was favored is not the same player as the turn ago.
Your upkeep.
In your upkeep, I don't want to waste any time here. I would like to draw many cards.
I'd like to go to 16.
Yeah, and draw a whole new opening hand.
Yeah.
Opening hands are better when you already have like 10 lands in play.
Yeah, it's true. I can tell you that Matej Zatlkaj now leads Makihito Mihara by 2-1.
That's 7 incoming.
Yep. Back to 9.
Back to 9.
Josh's draw was pretty good there, though. Legion's Initiative did 2 damage immediately, and then now protects him from the follow-up Wrath. Not that Shroud isn't in a decent position still, but Legion's Initiative was probably Josh's best draw. It's like a Boros Charm that did 2 damage immediately.
But it looks like there's a Renounce the Guilds.
Ooh, that's pretty good. Also, Legion's Initiative is a cool combo with Vishino First Blade, because it re-triggers the First Blade.
Renounce.
Here's a Renounce the Guilds. What would
So
you like to lose,
You have to
Josh?
sack the first blade here, right?
if he's opening with Renounce, that I think my guess is that the first blade. The thing is, it's close because Josh doesn't have much of a clock if he sacks the first blade, but I think that's what he's going to end up doing. Yeah. Shrout having like a Reckoner and a Jace and a Wrath. He's got some action now.
Josh is working with one card,
Yeah.
which I believe is a mountain.
Yeah, I think the fact that Shrout can play Reckoner, leave first strike up, and play Jace means that it's going to take a nice sequence of top decks for Josh to get out of this. I mean, he's certainly always drawing live with a bunch of Boros Charms in his deck and first blades, but it is going to be close. Okay, so he's just choosing to Wrath away the Chainwalker, basically just trading it for Legion's Initiative.
And now here's a Boros
Wow.
Reckoner.
Conveniently with first strike up.
Lays the Azorius Guildgate, which I believe leaves Shrout with exactly 7 cards in hand.
Attack step, right?
It's your attack step.
Oh, okay.
So the Gorehouse Chainwalker returns via the Legion's Initiative.
Step 1.
All right, yeah. Step 1 of 3. He basically he's looking for 3 Boros Charms here. Though his other option, which is what he's going to do now, is just indestructible his guy with Boros Charm.
Indestructible.
Sure.
That is what he's decided to do.
And so
So-
Josh will take 3 here.
Yeah. If Shrout was at 8, Josh might consider holding Boros
Oh,
Charm
yeah,
to try to draw
yeah.
the second. But with him at 9,
Yep.
just trying to get consistent damage in with Chainwalker is probably a good idea.
It's been really interesting to see that there's these like key life totals in
Yeah.
this tournament. Like being at 9 is important in a lot of matchups because of
Aetherling.
Aetherling, and being
Yeah.
at 17.
Yeah, the 8-point life chunks is something you have to consider.
Two Boros Charms.
Like in the control mirrors, playing your first Shockland's fine. When you play your second, you really have to think about it. Speaking of the skipper, there's Aetherling.
Oh, it's a Legion's Initiative for Josh. And that Gorehouse Chainwalker's looking a little bit outmatched, even with a little bit of bonus help.
Yeah, Josh is going to need a Kibler-esque run of Boros Charms
Yeah,
there.
I don't actually think,
I don't
there's
think he has time.
enough turns
He has
to do
2
that.
turns.
Yeah. He's again at the 3 from Reckoner actually put him to a relevant life total.
Right, that was a whole turn for him.
It is starting to look as if all 4 competitors here in the top 8 who were behind are going to at least get 1 game on the scoreboard, because we're at 1-1 in Wescoe Prost. We're at 2-1 Zatlkaj over Mihara. We're at 2-1 Ochoa over Castellon. And here, currently, 2-0, but starting to look like 2-1.
So is there any conceivable sequence that lets Josh win this game?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, Shrout not going for the kill with Aetherling next turn, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So Josh's Legion's Initiative bites the dust. Shrout with not quite infinite mana, but heading that way.
Forgetting to flicker back his Aetherling, which I had never heard of happening in this tournament. I don't think people generally end up doing that.
Josh will send in, and here's a block.
Yeah.
And Josh will say, that's fine, thank you very much. It's 2-1 to Josh Utter-Leyton. It's not too late to choose your guild and join the race. Declare your allegiance on planeswalkerpoints.com to earn special badges and achievements. Remember, the last day to join a guild is May 30th. Well, Azorius, Boros, Ortsov, I think they'd be my top 3. Although, obviously there isn't a mono blue guild, which would just take care of business very handily.
I would join a mono blue guild.
Yeah, I provided a few clues to my guild today, but
Very nice. All right, we are going to head across to Game 4 for Makihito Mihara of Japan, the 2006 World Champion, up against 2008 Pro Tour Berlin champion, oh wait, no, runner-up, Matej Zatlkaj, who lost in the final to the man sitting 2 seats to my right, one Louis Scott Vargas.
You played at that World Championships that Mihara won.
I did. That was the actual year I was in the national team, or
Yeah.
one of the years I was in the national team with Paul Chian and Ben Lundquist.
Did you top 16 that, or did you?
No, I top 50'd.
Okay.
Mihara did beat Paulo in the top 8 with starting to combo, realizing he was a mana short, shrugging, repealing a 1-drop, drawing Rite of Flame, the 4th Rite of Flame or whatever to combo
Yeah,
off.
pretty amazing to watch,
Yeah.
actually, right? We talk about that idea of not losing your composure in a bad situation, not compounding your mistake.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, he was not in a good spot. He realized that, but he had nothing better to, like, he couldn't just concede. He had to keep trying, and he actually ended up hitting the what he needed, which Paulo has brought up more than a few times.
So you're looking on screen at Matej Zatlkaj and Makihito Mihara. Zatlkaj just looking at his opening hand there. It's the Sphinx's Revelation we see. Players just getting ready for their game 4.
And does Zatlkaj have a 6-card hand here?
Looks like he does, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that would explain it, because it was a hand that I think you would consider mulliganing on 7, because a 2-land hand in a control mirror is not generally where you want to be. But at 6, he's definitely got to keep this.
I could tell you that Andrejs
It looks like he's still thinking about it.
By the way, Andrejs Prost now leads 2-1 over Craig Wescoe. And a reminder, Wescoe lost to Prost back in round 15.
Oh, no, okay.
I mean, he's not going to be happy about it, but at a 5-card hand, how many land are you expecting to draw there? So yeah, he did end up keeping, but again, it was with a grimace, not a smile.
Would you rather see a 6-land hand than that hand?
Yes, a 6-land hand is actually not bad in the control, like the Esper Mirror, because if you try to run a Jace out and they counter it, then play their own Jace, it's really bad for you. So a 6-land hand and you just passing, your opponent's not always going to be playing things into it.
So we're away. Matej Zatlkaj on the right of screen, Mihara on the left.
Yeah.
And early doors, not a lot going on as you'd expect.
So Matej plays a Godless Shrine and takes 2. What's he trying to say to Mihara?
That was a very heads-up play. Basically, by doing that, he represented Syncopate, and Mihara could have played Sync Collector last turn and didn't. And then Zatlkaj played another untapped duel. So again, Mihara's choosing not to run a Sync Collector into a Syncopate. So by paying life, he's Big Z's buying himself a lot of turns here.
You can save some time by just calling him Zatlkaj. That'll be fine.
Yeah, that is a nice combination.
Yeah.
I actually have called him Big Z more times than any other name, not even close.
I think that's perfectly fair. Here is Sin Collector from Mihara. Now, if that resolves, he will get to choose an instant or sorcery from Zatlkaj's hand, and will say, that's gone. And not just to the graveyard, it will be exiled.
Yeah, the jig's kind of up, too. Now he gets to actually take a look at what's going on. And because Matej missed a land drop, he didn't have to worry about the Syncopate he was representing. And it's actually valuable information that now he knows that it's within his range to bluff the Syncopate, which could impact future decisions.
Right. You have to at least factor in, like, maybe I should just go for it.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the kind of mirror where if you just go for it and it works, you're hugely favored. So,
And how big a deal is it now that Zatlkaj is on 16?
the extra turn off Aetherling is relevant, and actually, if Mihara has, Night Veil Specters, Sync Collectors, and Precinct Captains, he actually could just kill him with damage.
But let's take a look at what Mihara does have on the other side of the board. It's the sort of 6-land hand we were talking about.
Yeah, there's not a lot going on.
He's very
there.
mana heavy.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario for him is that if Matej draws a 4th land and just plays a Jace, which he kind of has to, so far behind you can't play around Syncopate, then it's actually not fantastic. Since right now, if Zatlkaj draws a bunch of lands, then he's actually in the game. He's got 7 spells to Mihara's basically 2.
Right, land Jace into maybe 2 lands lets him sort of pull away here.
Yeah. One thing he may have wanted to do, though, is to away the Sync Collector.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, because that makes the follow-up Jace so much better. But I guess he decided that he'd rather just hold on to the rest of his cards instead.
And is that the card that eventually Mihara took?
Yeah, this is now not drawing a Gilgate as his 4th land does make things a lot worse, because now Mihara can play Jace and minus it without fear, putting himself way far ahead.
So, Mihara has his 2-1 Sin Collector down and starts the beats.
Yeah, Sync Collector beats do some work.
Yeah, I was listening to the first 2 days of commentary in my earpiece all day, Friday, Saturday, and I kept hearing Sing Collector Beatdown. I kept thinking, is that really a thing? Yeah, apparently it is.
Oh wow, actually I just noticed Mihara has all black-white lands. He's
Oh,
actually
he can't cast
he's
Jace.
representing the Orzhov Guild completely by being unable to cast Jace. That's actually huge.
And there's the debtor's pulpit.
All right. I mean, not incredibly relevant now, but certainly will be in the future.
And so
Yeah, Mihara's got his one watery grave up at the top of his land collection.
Yeah, with
But
6 lands in play, it's not often that you don't have double blue.
So what does Zatlkaj do here? 'Cause he wants to, he'd love to up it, right?
Yeah.
And he does.
Yeah, I mean, minusing it is obviously, what he needs to do to hit land drops, but if he does that, Sing Collector just kills it, so you're better off upping it and then next turn minusing it and maybe Detention Sphere and something,
Mihara's drawn himself a precinct captain.
which is actually a pretty good one.
Yeah, the Sin Collector's going to come in, which obviously this time it's just for 1 because of the Jace ability. Now here is the captain, and that's going to mean an army starting to grow on the Japanese side of the board.
Mihara does also have a Renounce for the Detention Sphere, which is pretty important.
This time Matej does lose some loyalty on Jace. 3 cards come up, and we've got land,
it's
Azorius,
land 2
Charm.
cards, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's got 7 spells in hand, or 6 spells in hand, so
7 cards.
7 would be the answer.
7 cards. Yes.
Reminder, we're at Game 4 in all our quarterfinals. Prost 2-1 over Wescoe. Utter-Leyton 2-1 over Shrout. Here, Zatlkaj 2-1 over Mihara. And Dusty Ochoa 2-1 lead over Rob Castellon.
Looks like we're missing a card in Zatlkaj's hand here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough split. I think that being able to cycle into land with Azorius Charm does give him the edge to take that. But the pressure Mihara has out is very relevant.
Discard.
So move to discard.
Discard multiple cards to hand size.
Changes his mind. Was going to be a Sphinx's Revelation he'd left aside there. Is he
Can he
thinking of
afford to
losing an
discard
Aetherlink?
Aetherlink?
It's pretty tough discarding either link. The card is one of the only cards that matter later
Well,
in the
plus
game.
he needs 2 of them.
Yeah, that also is very relevant. His plan now is to hope that Mihara doesn't attack Jace with both, and then Azorius Charm, the one that does attack with Jace.
Oh, there's Night Veil Spectre.
Ooh.
Jace.
Both.
You. Jace.
Very nice.
So Matej will reach out with the Azorius Charm to say, I don't want you to have a free soldier. You can put the precinct
how many
captains
cards?
back. Matej wants to check how many
4.
cards. There's 4. Matej's doing some math with the land.
Oh,
Yeah, so he
his
has
last
a
card was a
Devour
Devour Flesh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes this
The mystery card.
that makes his sequence of plays much more easy to follow, since he knew he had the answer to both of Mihara's creatures, and you obviously don't want to throw Sing Collector back on top and have it resolve again.
Brutal news for Craig Wescoe. I can tell you he is mulliganing to 5 in Game 4 against Andrejs Prost. Remember, he's 2-1 down, and this is the 5th time he has had to mulligan this match.
Mihara did have the Dispel, though, for a pretty nice blowout.
It looks to me like
cards.
we're going to see a Game 5 here.
Yeah, Matej's drawing lands now, but he's pretty far behind on the board. And also, if Mihara just draws an island at some point, then the game becomes very hard to win.
12. Two cards.
Yeah.
So 2 cards are Jace's Jace Architect of Thought and Sphinx's Revelation, while Matej's still sort of choking on a handful of cards here.
Yeah. And like stuff like Psychic Strike and Dispel, while very important, are not as relevant when you're just getting beaten down by tutus.
For 2.
So I'd just like a 2 swing, 2 draw, 2 life. Sphinx's
He just
Revelation.
drew Sphinx's Revelation and Aetherling off of that.
Yeah. Well,
Just
he did
not
need more
finding
expensive
land.
spells. At least the Sync Collector will give him a pretty good shot here by eating a Revelation and then trading for a Sync Collector.
No, Bruch.
So away goes
I
Revelation.
know.
Well, I guess
know
it won't
very
even
well that
trade
you
because of the pulpit, so yeah.
Go.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Wescoe won that mulligan to 5. Andrejs Prost kept a hand, but never got past the amount of lands he needed, and a 2-drop just kind of did him in.
Yeah, that's the advantage of green-white beats. I mean, Wescoe stuck on 2, Prost stuck on 3, and Prost had way more trouble with that.
Yeah. Wescoe talked about like in the fact that he has these consistent decks that put a lot of early pressure on decks that need more mana to operate.
Game 2.
Yeah, that is one of the huge advantages you've got.
But the problem usually is if they hit that 4th land.
Yeah, it becomes a little more difficult. Sideboarding the Esper Mirror is very interesting because look at all these creatures that Mihara has. It's possible that Matej wants some number of Supreme Verdicts, but they're so bad against the like Aetherling Jace counter wars. So it's a tricky balance. I suspect that like kind of a mix is exactly what you're looking for.
You see an Obsidian Ghost Council, which Mihara takes no time at all
Yeah.
in selecting.
Let me ask you a question. How is Pithing Needle not a card in this format, in this tournament, especially in this matchup, where there's so many things that you can needle and very few ways to interact with a needle?
I mean, Pithing Needle is a card that we played in our sideboards in a lot of our test decks. We ended up not running it. I think Jerry may have run one.
Ultra Pro is the leading manufacturer of trading card game sleeves and deck boxes. If you're looking for official Dragon's Maze portfolios, card storage boxes, deck boxes, sleeves and playmats, Ultra Pro has you covered. For more information, visit wizards.com/magic merchandise.
So we were talking about Pithing Needle, and there's actually one in the sideboard of Rob Castellon's deck,
Yeah,
which is what we're going to go look and watch hit their game
the juicy
5 right
targets being Aetherling and Jace, but it's actually kind of funny that you can stop their Debtor's Pulpit if you really wanted to, name planes or what have you.
But naming Jace seems tremendous to me. I mean, I've watched so many of these matches come down to just sticking a Jace and just getting all these extra cards and just like almost like chaining your Jaces together.
Yeah, Jace -2/-2, play another Jace is a pretty big one.
Yeah.
So we are going to bring you Game 5. It's the shootout between Dusty Ochoa of the United States and Rob Castellon of the United States. There's Castellon on the right, Ochoa on the left. The players are going to rock and roll, and we see Tapland versus Tapland. Neither of those are guild gates. That makes a change. And Ochoa will have first crack at turn 2, and it will be 2 points of damage for Hallowed Fountain. And again, not actually playing anything on turn 2, but representing, and we just see a stomping ground on the other side for Castellon.
Representing and
Actually having.
actually having a syncopate this time.
And I like it, the Odyssey Syncopate, see, the little touches.
We have our first semi-finalist, ladies and gentlemen, and it is, don't scream, Luis, please. It's Josh Utter-Leyton. He defeats Andrew Shrout by 3 games to 1, and he will go on to face the winner of Craig Wescoe and Andrejs Prost.
16.
I had to grab a New Year's Eve noisemaker out of Luis's hand there.
All right, so his Voice of Resurgence on the right of your screen, and that is opposite Jace, Architect of Thought.
Trigger target you.
Down comes Sin Collector.
Trigger target you. That is a judge talking.
Yeah,
Isn't it just? And we see an Angel of Serenity, a Detention Sphere, far and away, Syncopate, Syncopate.
Taking far and away here.
Yeah, I imagine that like having the second Syncopate's not even all that good. He's going to tap out a bunch. Detention Sphere is likely eating the
Far away.
voice, but we'll end up seeing what Dusty draws here. He would like the Jace not to die though, so he might end up like eating the voice with Detention Sphere, plussing Jace, and then like hoping to Syncopate the next thing that comes down if he draws a land.
Which he does.
Yeah, because he wants to just stall till he hits Angel and hopefully not die to Siren of Insanity on the way, since that's what he lost his other 2 games to.
Sure.
But we also know, looking at Rob Castellon's hand that he can just play a Slaughter Games on Syncopate next turn, or
Yeah, or Angel. Like
Or
either
Angel.
one of those is pretty good. I mean, hitting the syncopates is nice because just taking the 2-for-1 is kind of hard to
Right.
resist.
So yeah, as you predicted, here comes the tension sphere.
Resolves.
Bolts himself.
Yeah, this is playing around either Blood Baron or Rob not having a 5th land because there aren't that many 5-drops. But oh, there's a Blood Baron, so I imagine it's time for some fun and games though.
Syncopate.
And there we have it.
And leaves him with just an Angel of Serenity in hand.
Yeah, he might depending on what he draws here, he might have to minus the Jace just to like hit his land drop and hopefully find some cards. The Sin Collector pressuring the Jace is pretty relevant. Otherwise, he would just be going wild with the -2.
Slaughter Games has looked great to me. This, I mean, obviously it doesn't fit into a lot of decks.
Yeah, all of our control-ish or slow decks that had black and red mana had some Slaughter Games. Just naming Aetherling is generally the best thing, and then getting to see their hand of Sin Collector, then nabbing a 2-of is also really nice.
Ochoa draws. He has drawn a Sphinx's Revelation. He'd like that to be when he has about 8 land in play rather than 5, but nonetheless, good to have.
I think that edges you a little towards just minusing
Presently.
Jace and hitting land drops, maybe just
Right.
losing the Jace in the process, but plussing Jace is also not too bad here. I mean, they're both pretty close. It depends on how much he's got here. I guess if he's Revelating first, he's not going to be minusing the Jace.
16. Yep.
So Ochoa goes back up to 16. He draws 2 cards.
Doesn't hit a land, it looked like.
And Jace gets plussed up to 5 now.
He's just hoping no sire, no sire, no sire, which it does not appear there will be one.
He's not getting no side.
Yeah. He's getting Gatecreeper Vine into Alms Beasted.
Alms Beast, yeah.
Did, yeah.
Literally the hardest thing in my deck. I will get white-black.
I will get white-black.
Is he
That's
getting,
Rob
is he getting a
Castellon.
Guildgate?
I would imagine he wanted to just get a basic here. If he has any left.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, he actually doesn't have any basics left. Otherwise, he would have, I think, gotten a basic.
Wow.
Because he can't get a shock land. He couldn't get an untapped land this turn.
He's only got 1, 1, and 1,
But
hasn't
then
he?
can't he just play an Alms Beast?
We could have also just played a Blood Baron too.
Right.
But I guess he wanted to hit land drops for Deadbridge Chant, maybe just trying to resolve that. I mean, he knows that there's an Angel Serenity coming down somewhat
Right.
soon. The Blood Baron does get around that, so I think with a Jason play, maybe just putting a bigger creature out to pressure Jace is good, but Deadbridge Chant is also pretty nice. All right, we're going into the well here with Jace.
And we see an Obsidian Ghost Council and an Azorius Charm.
And luckily for Rob, he's got Celestia Charm, so
Yeah.
if he takes the Ghost Council, is actually going to be, oh, it looks like he's not. Okay, so
That
he's
was,
grabbing the
Water
lands.
Grave and
With a
Zero.
Revelation and an Angel in hand, grabbing lands does make some amount of sense here, just because hitting a land drop is basically all he wants to do now.
And we saw in the last game with Matej Zatlkaj that he had the chance to take a couple of land and didn't. And in the end, he was land shy most of the way through that game.
Yeah, well, that was because he really needed to Azorius Charm into Devour Flesh.
Sure.
But it was pretty brutal, yeah. Like I don't think he was happy about that situation. Well, Deadbridge Chant leads to milling, but it's because of Psychic Strike, not the actual chant.
Indeed. So Ochoa draws a basic. That'll be his first. And he is going to spend 6 mana for Aetherling.
Yeah, things are getting close here. Oh, and there we have it. That was the card we were just talking about.
Pithing Needle. Down it comes.
And the bigger.
I'm going to respond by blinking him.
I'm going to respond
You're going
by...
to respond to me casting for the needle? Oh,
So they're discussing, is
Okay.
it a response
No,
to the
yeah,
casting
yeah,
of
I'll-
Pithing Needle?
blink it out. Yeah, underneath everything.
So then Aetherling gets named.
Yeah, might as well get the last little blink in there.
Use all your mana.
Yeah.
2 cards. Yeah.
So a reminder that Josh Utter-Leyton is through to the semi-finals. He plays the winner of Game 5 between Andrejs Prost and Craig Wescoe. We will see their Game 5 next.
slamming Alms
Go ahead.
Beast
This is
down.
about to be a race of vanilla creatures. As Angel's Serenity is going to come down and Aetherling's going to just become a Urnum Djinn here. Though I'm not sure what percentage of people know what Urnum Djinn is at this
Yeah.
point.
You get a look at the Alms Beast.
So, do you want the Supreme Verdict plus land? Oh, it's actually a choice here for Dusty.
Yeah, I mean, the land is obviously very good, but I think given that he's going to have 2 creatures and play to none, the Supreme Verdict is not as appealing as it would have been otherwise.
And now 7 mana, here comes the Angel of Serenity. I would like to steal your 2 gentlemen, and then I'd like
16
to
off.
hit you
Yep.
to make it 16 apiece.
This is turning into a brawl, though Blood Baron is, I guess, outclassed by Aetherling, even a vanilla one.
We do have Celestia Charms.
Yeah,
still,
we're-
too.
Well, yeah, like that killing the Angel and getting the Alms Beast back right away might actually just be what Rob wants to do right now. Also, because of the Psychic Strike, you kind of have to
Yeah,
do it
he
before
has to do. He
untaps.
knows it's going to get countered otherwise. He
That was the moment for it to happen, so back they come.
gets another.
Lay a Guildgate, and now here's Arms Beast
Okay.
again. 6/6. Reminded the lifelink goes to the opponent rather than the Arms Beast, because that'd be a bit too
Yeah.
good.
You have 2
The
cards.
Revelation is going to take
Yeah.
this game into a very different place soon, though. We're off the beatdown plan and back on the draw 6 cards plan.
Yeah, we see.
Go ahead.
Rob spending 2 mana
Voice.
to cast Voice. And he's just looking for just sort of a little bit of
Crossbow.
bonus action in case
3.
Dustin's going to cast something on his turn.
Yeah, he knows about like the Psychic Strike, and this kind of forces Dusty's hand. If he wants to Revelation, he doesn't get to wait and see what he's going to play first, unless he wants to give him a token, which is not generally what you want. Giving them free 5/5s or what have you is makes it a little tougher.
Castellon really wants a Sire of Insanity more than any other.
Yeah,
card at
again,
this
that's the
point.
best card in his deck in this matchup. But
For 4? 5 or 5? Okay. 21.
In Game 5 of Makihito Mihara against Matej Zatlkaj, both players have Precinct Captain in
Attack.
play, but there is a little edge to Japan in the form of Jace, Architect of Thought. That is on Mihara's side of the board in their Game 5.
now Rob has to decide how much he wants to play around Supreme Verdict by
Right.
committing Blood Baron or not. So he's going to look to see how many may have been used
Yeah,
already. He knows the
6
ones on the
cards.
bottom.
7.
So here's the Gatecreeper Vine we've seen before.
Let's take a look at what's
Go ahead.
going on there. I see.
Well, there is the Verdict. I mean, Verdict into Obsidian is pretty nice. Verdict with Psychic Stripe up is also pretty nice. I think Dusty's got
Walk with
some
Gatekeeper
good
Vine.
options here.
Sure.
I assume what he said was block with Gatecreeper Vine.
Yeah, I think he can predict that a Verdict might be happening at some point, so might as well cash in your vines for some life.
One, two, three, 4, 5.
He's gonna play the Ghost Council.
Sure. 14 to 23.
So a little life swing straight away with Obsidat. 23 to 14 now.
Also, if Dusty ever draws a Detention Sphere to kill the Python Needle, this game is going to take a turn for the worse for Rob.
Well, I think this game is already not in a great spot.
Oh, actually, he's only got 1 Detention Sphere in his deck, or 1 in his sideboard, so that actually makes that not likely to happen.
So down comes a Blood Baron. And the thing is, you look at the table and you think, look, there's an Arms Beast, there's a Voice of Resurgence,
Yeah.
there's a Blood Baron. This is great for Castellon, and it kind of isn't.
And there goes a Sire of Insanity.
Yeah, he does get a Voice of Resurgence token, which is fairly relevant here.
But we know that there's a
Sure. 12 to 17.
There's your trigger from Obsidat Ghost Council coming back in, so that 2-point life swing is going to happen every turn for as long as Dusty wants it to.
And Dusty can look at a bunch of new cards with Jace, and with this much mana in play, almost every card in his deck is pretty good.
He's got a pair of Supreme Verdicts right now.
Yeah.
Token
And he's on the aggressive with his vanilla 5/5s and 4/5s.
So now what does he do with his 9 mana? He begins with
I
4.
don't know where the vanilla of Obsidat comes from, but it's
Well.
some exotic land.
Yeah, Obsidian does things, but when it's attacking, it's actually just a 5/5. Well, this is far and away the best way to split the cards.
Best way to split the card, just take the split card.
Yeah.
That was not even a pun, Rich. Do not sigh.
What?
At best, it was wordplay.
What?
Chant.
Ooh, Deadridge Chant. That's exciting.
It is very exciting as a card.
It's like, come on, Sire of Insanity.
What's going to happen with that?
But he's still got to deal
So-
with that Obsidat.
Yeah, the Obsidian is putting on a quick clock. What he hits off the Chant the next couple turns, if that is going to be really relevant.
Yeah.
He's only going to get a 1 or 2 cracks at it at this rate.
Go ahead.
It's going to be one of those what's on
Sure.
the top of the graveyard
6 to 19.
moments
Yeah.
kind of thing. As it's going to be a random card coming back if you've not seen Deadbridge Chant in action.
And he can't even attack Jace because far and away, I think actually,
Far and away.
yeah, now he's actually just basically
He's-
dead,
he's
right?
just dead.
Here's far and
yeah.
away,
Yeah.
and there it is. Dusty Ochoa advances to the semi-finals of Pro Tour Dragons Maze, defeating Rob Castellon by 3 games to 2, which means it's time for another Game 5 here at Pro
You
Tour
have a good deck. Huh?
Dragons Maze 2013.
Played awful, though.
We'd like to thank Card House Games for being an official card retailer here at Pro Tour Dragons Maze. For all things Magic, Card House Games is one of the premier destinations on the internet. For more information, visit cardhousegames.com.
So looking at Twitter, Joey Pasco, who, we all know at Affinity for Blue, is asking for a little more detail on why people weren't really playing Pithing Needle.
Well,
Or why sometimes I call it Pithing Needle and then sometimes I call it Pithing Needle.
Well, there's no correct way to say it. I mean, there is, but obviously you just go back and forth. I think the main reason is that in and of itself, it's not a card that does anything like it. When you needle a Jace, it's very good. That's by far the best. But if you look at that game, needling Aetherling was good, but Aetherling still attacked for 12 damage. And you also have to find a deck that isn't playing Jace or Aetherling, which does cut a significant number of decks out of the format, and you have to have no other answers that you have options for. So it is a good card, and we did test a lot with it, but our Aetherling Jace decks weren't going to play it, and our junk decks played Debtor's Pulpit instead. They thought that was a better answer to Aetherling, and they'll just take the wash on Jace.
Cool. There you go. Hope that helped you answered your question, Joey.
Okay, let's get down to the floor. We've got Rashad Miller with Dusty Ochoa.
Rashad Miller here with semifinalist Dusty Ochoa. So you find out you're in top 8, and obviously you get the deck list. Tell us a little bit about how you decided to play test the night before for your matchup today.
Honestly, I didn't have a lot of time. I was pretty exhausted from the Pro Tour the previous 2 days, so I played a few matchups pre-side and a few matchups post-side with the initial deck, and I did a lot of looking over of the other decks, but that's about it.
Did you like your matchup coming into the quarterfinals?
I'm more confident in my Esper mirrors, which is later on because there's a lot of Esper decks, than I am with that first matchup, which I squeaked away with. He had 2 awful draws, game 1 and 2, which let me get ahead 2-0, and then he crushed me game 3 and 4, and luckily I was able to eke out a win on game 5.
Okay. So right now, we don't know who your opponent is. Actually, it looks like that match might be done, but we don't know yet. So if you have to choose between Mihara or Zatlkaj, which one do you think you'd rather play?
Probably, how do you say his name? Zatlkaj?
You got it. You say it how it looks.
There you go.
All right. This is Rashad. Back to the booth.
All right, thanks, Rashad. Zatlkaj. Now, big announcement. implications. We don't just have a player of the year, Josh Utter-Leyton, we now have a rookie of the year, and that man is Felipe Tapia Becerra of Chile. Congratulations, Chileans, Magic community, wonderful for you. The only two players that could have caught Felipe today have lost their quarterfinals. They needed to win the whole thing. Castellon out, Shrout out. That means, Felipe Tapia Becerra, you are the rookie of the year for 2012-2013, and congratulations to you.
Well done.
A wonderful achievement. So we are heading for a game 5 between Craig Wescoe and Andrejs Prost. Now, Luis, you've been down there when you're in the middle of a match and the match just grinds to a halt, because we tell you it's grinding to a halt.
Yes, I have.
It can be pretty tough, can't it?
Yeah, I would say that like in Pro Tour San Diego when I was playing against
All right. Let me apologize one more time for
yes
this.
Simon, where it's game 4. I'm down 2-1, and I've mulliganed to 5 already, and then our match gets held for 20 minutes. I was looking at my 5-card hand like, yeah, this isn't gonna work.
Okay, so let's get down to the floor because we are ready for that game 5. Wescoe and Prost, how will they stand the pressure? Let's find out. So you can see Prost on your left, Wescoe on the right. And Prost will be on the play, which could be huge. Remember, he's the control player in this matchup. He's Azorius control. On the right is Craig Wescoe, and he is all about the aggro and all about the 1-drops.
And he just drew a voice for his first draw step, which is huge. His draw went from good to very good.
So he begins with Dryad Militant. It's a 2-1 for 1. Here's turn 2 coming for Wescoe. Prost looks like he's got to renounce the guilds.
Which is going to cast in response to this. Yeah.
So there's renounce the guilds in response. So Dryad Militant will bite the dust. Wescoe runs out the Voice of Resurgence.
This is a big draw step for Prost. He misses on his land drop, it looks like.
Pass. 4.
We have our third semi-finalist. It is Makihito Mihara of Japan, the 2006 world champion, marches on just by the skin of his teeth past Matej Zatlkaj of the Slovak Republic.
Go.
Loxodon Smiter, and that was no third land for Andrejs Prost.
I think it was a 6-drop.
Yeah, I mean, with Double Reckoner, he's got good comeback potential here, but he's going to need a land very quickly.
Isn't he just?
Yeah.
Wow. Loxodon Smiter already in play for Wescoe. 6 cards in hand for Wescoe, and he's already super aggressive. Here's Voice.
Yeah, he's
Land.
an embarrassment of riches here. He's got a ton of plays, and they're all pretty good.
Yeah, and you know, is very is stacked for the follow-up plays.
Yeah.
He's got an Advent of the Worm. He's got a
More
Root
defenses, and a Tuscany Charm.
yeah.
And the reason I think he went with Voice this turn is you want to cast it before attacking to make Azorius Charm worse.
There's a Precinct Captain.
Interesting. He ended up boarding in the Glaring Spotlights, I guess, because to get around Reckoners and Precinct Captains.
That's actually a really nice, you know, sideboard falter effect.
Yeah. Ben Stark and a bunch of other guys on our team almost played black-green aggro, and they would have had Glaring Spotlights in their sideboard if they did.
So Wescoe, after a little moment's pause, will send everything in. The Precinct Captain, unsurprisingly, gets in the way of Voice of Resurgence.
Okay, I will make an elemental.
So Wescoe says, sure, well, that dice, so I get my elemental.
Upgrade.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to cash it in to make maybe root more defenses better.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Though he does have an Advent also, so I think Wescoe's in a pretty commanding position here. Not that that's probably difficult to discern.
And now, Advent of the Worm, 5/5 Trampler for just 4 mana. One of the real hits out of Dragon's Maze. Be a land, Andrejs Prost. It is not.
Pretty nice when you can cast Advent of the Worm and not have to worry about your opponent.
Yeah, not
Supreme
having a
Verdicting.
Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a do-or-die draw step for Prost, unfortunately.
Oh, wow, listen to this. Josh Utter-Leyton on Twitter. This quarterfinal between Prost and Wescoe is a huge sweat for me. Don't think I can possibly win against Wescoe.
Yep, and this is what we had talked about going in, that he was really hoping for Prost to win just because the white-green creature decks are so much tougher for Boros. Unfortunately, the sweat is probably over for Josh here.
Here's Renounce the Guilds from Prost. And there's
He can
plenty to choose from.
He can sack the judges from either way.
Oh, the things that make us happy as Magic players.
The humor is probably lost on Andre at this point. Is my guess.
He's done terrifically well, though. Remember, this is his second Pro Tour in just over 2 years. He made the modern top 8 of Philadelphia, as did Louis Scott. As did Josh, of course.
Yeah.
I get the two of you confused all the time.
Looks like he let the Renounce resolve.
I think that's a poor style play.
Yeah, I think Celestial Charm, finishes this off right now.
So that precinct captain goes under the bus of Loxodon and Smiter, and Wescoe just checking that he's got this right.
The
Selesnya
bus might
Charm,
have spiked tires.
Yeah.
2 mana, Selesnya Charm.
4, 9. Good luck.
That's it. That is the end of the quarterfinals. Craig Wescoe advances by 3-2, and he will face Josh Utter-Leyton in the semi-finals. And what semi-finals we have in store. Craig Wescoe, you see there,
Actually,
takes it down
we tested the
in
matchup. It was
game
actually
5.
pretty good.
So
Scored.
Wescoe
Just, like,
defeats Andrejs
actually
Prost
got some planes.
by 3-2. Josh Utter-Leyton
hope you
advances 3-1 over Andrejs Shrout. And then we have Mihara 3-2 over Matej Zatlkaj. Welcome back to the booth. And Dusty Ochoa 3-2 over Rob Castellon. So, we've got some pretty awesome semi-finals coming our way after lunch.
So you're telling me the semifinals of this Pro Tour has Craig Wescoe in his 3rd top 8, Makihito Mihara in his 4th top 8, and Josh Utter-Leyton
in his 4th.
In his fourth, yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Come on, he's been playing Magic for like 2 years.
He's been playing Magic for now 5 years. But yeah, San Juan, Philadelphia,
And San Francisco
here,
Worlds.
and then Worlds.
Wow, so that's insane. That's 11 top 8s in the top 4.
Let's head down to the floor. Rashad Miller is with that Game 5 winner, Craig Wescoe.
Rashad Miller here with semifinalist Craig Wescoe. So, a lot of people are thinking you have a really good, you got good matchups after your quarterfinals match. How do you think your deck fares against the rest of the field right now?
Well, fortunately, I have a really good team who's doing all that work for me, so I haven't even considered my 2nd round matchup. But considering what Josh is playing, I think I have a really good sideboard plan for it, because it's similar to mono red, I think, the way I'm going to go about it.
Okay, so back in your deck designing for this tournament, how hard did you try to make your deck mono white?
Well, you know that's where I began. But I actually didn't build this deck. My contribution was adding Civic Saber as the last card. It was a sort of a team deck.
All right, so that's Craig Wescoe. We're going to send it back to the booth with Rich, BDM, and Luis Scott Vargas.
It's not quite clear to me whether that it was a team decision, was I can't take all the credit for Civic Saber, or I don't want to take all of the blame.
Yeah. Well, as soon as I saw the Civic Saber, it made me think of the trusty machetes in his PT San Diego deck.
Absolutely. So if you're Dusty Ochoa, and you're sitting there and you think, okay, Makihito Mihara, 4 Pro Tour top 8s, 259 pro points. Josh Utter-Leyton, 4 top 8s, over 200 pro points. Craig Wescoe, just the 3 Pro Tour top 8s and, 130 odd pro points. Yeah, and I've played in 2 Pro Tours and went 6-10-1 before this weekend.
He's also played in the Nationals. Because he played against David Ochoa at David's first Nationals as well.
Really?
Yeah, Nationals 2007.
Yeah, I
Kansas City? That
yes,
year?
I suppose.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think so. I remember thinking that they were brothers because they were at at the tournament
2
together.
D Ochoas.
Yeah.
Obviously, why wouldn't you be? But apparently not. So, a reminder that the semi-finals will be coming up after lunch, but don't go away because we have a great halftime show lined up for you. It's Zach Hill, Sheldon Menery, and first of all,
And Beyonce.
Marshall Sutcliffe.
Close.
Beyonce. What are you talking about? Outrageous. Marshall Sutcliffe at the news desk. Oh, dear.
Hey, welcome back to the news desk. Marshall Sutcliffe. Beyonce apparently is going to be joining us for the halftime show. That's what I was told. Zach Hill, Sheldon Menery. So this is the time of our Top 8 Sunday presentation where we ask you to relax a little bit. You know, it's stressful. I mean, I know when I'm at home, you know, before I was doing this, I would watch the top 8 coverage of all the Pro Tours, and it was one of those things where, I mean, my hands would get a little tense, and you know, you're staring at the screen, and Richard, like, he makes it all exciting, and you know, you get kind of into it. For this section, we're going to kick back a little bit. You know,
Okay.
we're gonna kind of zoom out from the whole Pro Tour experience, and we're going to talk about a few things a little bit bigger perspective. Now, at the end of our halftime show, we're going to ramp you right back into the intense on-the-floor feature match action. So don't worry. But for now, it's sandwich time. So go grab a bag of chips and a sandwich and come hang out with us 3 for a little while. We have a little announcement for you about the Pro Tours. We have the locations of the Pro Tours for basically the next year, the whole next season, and a little further than that. So that's kind of exciting, and a few other little things lined up. But first, I want to talk to you.
I really like when you talk to me.
Yeah, well, we talk a lot. We just did a GP last weekend. Now we're doing these. We talk all the time.
I can't get enough of this.
In fact, I had you on my podcast this week.
Oh, wow, just the week of Marshall Cyclists.
Mono Zach Hill for the week. So what I want to talk to you about, though, is so you're now out of R&D.
Yeah.
You're running a nonprofit. You've moved on to other things, but there's still a lot of residual going.
Oh,
You've
of
worked
course.
on a lot of the sets that are still coming out, including lead developing Dragon's Maze,
Right.
which this Pro Tour is named after, and a lot of the cards have been featured. And you know, I happen to live in Seattle, and so I bump into a lot of the R&D
course.
guys pretty often. And one of the things that you get out of the R&D guys are great stories.
Right.
You know, I'll say, hey, I really like this card you made, and they'll be like, yeah, that used to cost 2 more, you know, or you know, something like that. You're like, really? Or it had higher toughness. And you pulled aside a few cards that you've got stories for as well, and you're going to go
Yeah.
over a few of those now for us, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the really cool things about being able to do this is just like seeing cards that were just in an Excel spreadsheet for, you know, ages actually being played under the lights. And, you know, sometimes stuff goes the way you think it will, and sometimes it doesn't. But
And that's okay, right?
Oh, yeah, it's great.
There needs to be a level of that for R&D where you don't have everything numerically mapped out perfectly.
Oh yeah, it's not only okay, it's good.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've said this before, but if we were able to perfectly predict everything, it would not be a very robust format. So what we instead try to do is impose, you know, barriers and have a range in which we expect stuff to fall.
Right.
So it's really cool seeing how that pans out, and also just, you know, you wake up at 3 in the morning, you're like, aha, I have an idea. You type it into a file, it gets printed, and then millions of players are playing with it, and we see it under the light. I mean, it's just the coolest
It's got to
experience
be
in the
awesome.
world.
Now, the first card that we're going to talk about is Blood Baron of Wescoe. It's a
Yeah.
card we've seen here this weekend. What do you got?
Yeah, so Blood Baron, a card I'm really excited is doing very well today. The thing I thought was cool about this card is originally I called it Daywalker. And I wanted it,
Oh, nice.
I really wanted it to be a vampire angel. I didn't know what that meant, but I was like, I think that would be super, super sweet. So the idea was that it would have pro white and black because it's like good side as pro black, but it's evil side as pro white. And the idea is that it's like life linking, but that like when it gets, you know, powerful enough, when it drinks enough blood or whatever, it would go all like Super Saiyan and kind of, yeah, just like be the coolest creature that you've ever seen in your entire life. So that's kind of what the design's going on here. That's
Now, is this a top-down design? Is this you coming up with the idea for a vampire angel or a daywalker and then building from that?
Yeah, exactly. We have these meetings where we try to decide, you know, I don't know how much, we write articles about the process, but a lot of the things you do, you spend a lot of time on your mythic rares, and you spend a lot of time talking about what the mythic rares need to feel like and what needs to happen. So what was cool about black and white, I think there's this inherent duality a lot of the time.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the basic life and death, which you can already use black and green, but kind of good and evil. And there's we liked, you know, there's certain cards like Still Moon Cavalier, you know, go all the way back to White Knight, Black Knight. There's kind of this parallel in a lot of the black-white relationship that I really wanted to capture on one card. And Blood Baron is kind of that being expressed.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's just sweet.
Oh yeah,
right?
it's just an awesome card.
Yeah.
It's the next Divinity of Pride.
Yeah, right.
There you go. All right, now our next card, it's Turn and Burn.
Yeah.
But I think that you wanted to talk a little more broadly about Fuse.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the Fuse mechanic. We've seen a lot of Fuse cards be played this weekend. It came out of Alexis Jansen, her team's design file, and I think was just one of the most brilliant innovations in the set. And I can say that because it had nothing to do with me. The original Ravnica brought back split cards, you know, and kind of riffed on them and had this awesome gold cycle and dissension that kind of tied the block together. So I think we expected that players would expect that some sort of split card thing would make its appearance in the third set and really kind of cement that Ravnica feel.
Yes.
Now, at the same time, we don't want to just do what we did before, so we wanted a twist, but we didn't want a twist that was like overly complicated or was a twist for twist's sake.
Right.
What's really cool about these cards is the way the file worked out and the way that we needed to get all 10 guilds into the, you know, a set of only 156 cards.
Yeah.
And really a lot smaller than that when you consider that the gates are reprints, mazes, and sort of an extra card. We needed monocolored cards at uncommon for draft.
Yes.
That were not really monocolored cards.
Right.
So these split cards accomplished that goal, which was sweet,
Yeah.
while also having this really awesome gameplay of, you know, the whole being more than the sum of their parts.
Yes.
So I think for limited they panned out, for constructed they panned out, and we spent a lot of time. I mean, we had more design meetings about these 15 cards than essentially anything else in this. I think we had like 4 meetings devoted to specifically
That doesn't surprise me
these
at all, because you guys had to walk a fine line where each card had to do something relevant or at least
Right.
not completely useless on its own, but the way that they interact when you cast both of them is a delicate balance. You know, we're looking at turn burn here.
Right.
And it's easy to see that you could target one thing with turn and another thing with burn and maybe get them.
Yeah.
But also in a pinch, you can target the same thing, and it's beautiful how they work together.
Yeah, and maybe not even in a pinch if you just need to deal with a Thrag task
Yeah.
or something like
There
that.
you go.
So yeah, and the thing is, like, it's not only that, like, oh, it would be nice if each side worked separately. They wouldn't fulfill their role in the set as like real monocolored cards.
Yeah.
If each side didn't accomplish like an actual thing.
Right.
So I'm really proud of how these turned out. Again, we mobilized a lot of people into thinking about these designs. Each one of these cards probably had 25 designs at some point, and then and to top it all off, the names all work.
Yeah.
Which is
You know, and the thing that it's a small thing, but something I really appreciated about how these ended up in their final form. Remember, I don't see any of the meetings or the thing, is how the fuse goes across both sides. I thought that was just a really nice touch, you know, kind of linking them together and showing them as one card. All right, our next card.
Yeah.
Card we've seen here in the top 8, Renounce the Guilds.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about Renounce the Guilds and the work that it's done here. This was one of those cards where there were just a bunch of things that were annoying us about standard. You know, like Geist of St. Traff, we knew it was good. We wanted to make sure that colors other than black had answers to it. But we also wanted to do it in a way that wasn't awkward. So one of the things every set needs to do is that you have development needs that come out of FFL meetings, and you're like, I need a card that solves this problem.
Yes.
Well, and FFL is the future
So
League
somebody plays a deck, and something's too good or not good enough, and they'll come to you and say, we need to make a tweak so that this is either brought down or brought up to where you want it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or like, okay, this card's too good, we need an answer to it, or like, we wanted this strategy to be better, we need an enabler. The challenge in this set is there's all these cycles that occupy 10 whole slots.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's like 1 gold common that each guild has.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
There's like, you know, this split card. So there's just not a lot of real estate in the set. So we're like, okay, we need the answer to be in white. There's no uncommons in mono white, so that's where you normally put like a kind of answer card. So we need
but
like
the split card or the fuse card.
the
takes that
fuse
place.
cards took those up, so it's like we needed a white rare that felt like a rare that dealt with Geist of St. Traff Detention Sphere that also could sort of deal with Falkenrath Aristocrat. You know, there's all these needs, and then we came up with this idea. Okay, we can make an edict in black. What does that feel like? And I wrote a name, Guild Dues, down of just like, you know, because not everybody in Ravnica is all about the guilds.
Yeah,
and then it turned out that the concept is actually like what ended up getting used. The idea of just like, you know, not everybody is down with this whole guild thing on Ravnica. And that makes sense. Okay, so it's like that. What is a guild? It's a multicolored card. All the multicolored cards in this set have to do with guilds.
Right.
And so it just represents to me a really awesome marriage of like, okay, we have let's not just like overdevelop a card to do this. Let's actually like put in the work to make it make sense in the file, to make it make sense creatively, to not be like super weird at low rarities to where it messes with draft. And then, you know, we see it played today, not to answer any of those other cards I was talking about, Aristocrat Geist, but just as like a good spell that does real work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that you guys really hit the nail on the head with this one. It's a card, I think it's one of those classic cards where when you read it, it's like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
you know, and it doesn't. You don't go, what were they thinking here? You know, it just sort of sits, and then at some point down the line, when you're building a deck, you're like, well, this card is just beating me every time, and then you kind of look through the file, and you're like, hey, that's why they did. You know, it kind of lets us, you know, after the fact, link up kind of what you guys were doing ahead of time.
Yeah, and it's nice that it you know, it's a relatively complex series of interactions, but the line of text on the card is pretty simple.
Yes.
And yet it does a lot of really interesting things.
Also, sweet artwork. I know you did the artwork for it since you're an R&D. Yeah, because that's how that works. All right, next card. This is an interesting one. It got a lot of hype, a lot of talk on Twitter, on the internet, on the message boards. Haven't really seen it here this weekend. Notion Thief.
Yeah, so Notion Thief is one of the many cards in the set designed to kind of yell at Sphinx's Revelation.
Yes.
A lot of Sphinx's.
We've seen a few in the set. Yeah.
Seen a few of those cards get cast. You know, seen a lot of Sphinx's Revelations get cast. So you know, some of the answers we wanted to be a little bit more like oblique. I guess like Possibility Storm, like not really a Revelation answer, but it kind of is. Because if you cast it, you're not going to get, you know, and then the decks that play a lot of Revelations have a lot of instance and counter magic that don't function as well.
Blank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's sort of more subtle. Sire of Insanity a little louder. This card, though, I want it to be a card that's just like, not only is it good against it, like if you're tapping out for Revelation, not thinking about this, you are done.
You're done.
That is the game. And also throwing some chips at Jason Legacy. At Brainstorm, you know, it has uses in other formats because obviously if you get a Brainstorm with it, that's like a Mind Twist Ancestral Recall.
Yeah, I did the math. It's bad.
Well, I mean, you have to pay attention when you're playing Notion Thief, however, because when somebody has a card like Consecrated Sphinx, you just deck yourself.
Right.
You know, because your draw replaces theirs. They draw, well, I'm going to draw 2, and then you're going to get it replaced, and then you're going to have to draw 2 more, and I'm going to draw 2 more, and all of a sudden, your deck's gone.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't have a way to kill either the Consecrated Sphinx or the Notion Thief, you're done.
I think Sphinx lets you opt out. Does it? I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff in Magic. Does it? Trade
right, but
I mean, the person can
the person
say,
with the Consecrated Sphinx
that's
will
how
deck
that works.
you
Yeah.
when you have the Notion Thief.
Yeah, I'll keep doing this.
Yeah, I'm not opting out at all.
I'm not done. Oh, that's awesome.
Draw yourself.
Sick.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make sure not to non-bow myself. Yeah, all right, cross the Notion Thief Sphinx deck off.
Yeah. Now, just before we go on to the next one, why do you think we haven't seen it here this weekend? We've seen Esper. They can cast the card, and we've seen a lot of Sphinx's Revelation.
So I mean, I think the thing about the card, it's like very easy, like you talk about, to envision the best case scenario. On the other hand, it's a 4-mana 3/1. You know, it has flash, but it's not just the best body of all time.
No.
And you know, there's a lot of other cards that these Esper decks are using to try and attack one another. You know, and like Sin Collector answers like a far more diverse array of threats
For cheaper.
For cheaper. So, but in fact, the badness of Notion Thief, not that it's a bad card, but that it's sometimes inefficient, is I think one of the things that makes it actually better. Because you know,
this is interesting. I think I know where you're going. Go
yeah,
ahead. Yeah,
like
this is cool.
the fewer times that people play this, the more that people aren't going to play around it. Because they're like, it's bad, no one plays it. So when you're the person that decides, like, oh, you know what, I'm going to get you. They're not expecting it, which is awesome. So it's one of those cards. I hope it creates a story like every couple of months, and then someone feels really bad, and then of course never casts a card draw or spell into 4 mana again.
Yeah.
You know, and it cycles.
It's almost like its presence, just that it exists, right, can put that frame of mind into somebody like, what if he has Notion Thief? This guy, I'm looking at you, you could be the guy that's playing the Notion Thief, and, you know, makes you play a little differently. All right, our next one. This is a sweet card, man. I'm pretty excited about this one. Not as excited as our own Brian David Marshall. Plasm Capture.
Yeah, but Plasm Capture, I wanted to bring this card up because it's exactly the type of thing that I think is awesome to be able to do in third sets, where it's like, you know, there's all this stuff going on with the guilds, there's all this stuff going on for limited, but like sometimes you just want to make an awesome gold card.
Yeah.
And like, what does green do? It accelerates mana, it fixes color. What does blue do? It counters spells. Perfect opportunity to print a mana drain.
Yes.
and you want to cost it so that it's it's playable. It's like disappointing if you're like, oh, Mana Drain's back, but it costs like 8, and it's just awful. So I think this is a great example of like getting the power level essentially right, getting the effect that's super exciting, and gets people saying, what can I do with this?
Yeah.
But isn't just overly bananas, and isn't just something that you can slot into every deck. Yeah. So that's exactly the type of card I'm really glad we could make room for in Dragon's Maze. Not as like a Simic card, not as like an on-theme card, but just an awesome like what does blue do, what does green do gold card that makes people look at it and say like, can we really print this?
And I think this is I think that Plasm Capture is a card that catches multiple angles too, right? It's cool for new players because it gets them thinking, like you said, about like what could happen, right? Like I could counter their spell and then cast something massive, but also for old school players, right? We're like, Mana Drain, sweet, I get to play Mana Drain again, Now, one question I have about Plasm Capture. So what made you decide to make the mana any color you want as opposed to colorless?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We talked a little bit about this. The first was that, it just seemed a little cooler not to just be literal mana drain for a couple more mana. So that feels a little bit more like just like a fixed version of another card, which is cool. But I think it's a little bit cooler to say, all right, like you're paying 2 more mana. This card's clearly not as good, but I'm going to offer you a little bit of an incentive to say that when this works, it's even better than this spell that you know a lot about. It also just made it feel more green to me.
It does.
That and again, we don't want it to like you were saying, we don't want it to be like, oh, you have to know about Mana Drain from Legends to think this is cool. It needs to feel like a card that makes sense and works by itself.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think you guys nailed it. I think both sides of that equation too. So I think that was our last card, but we have an announcement. This is a fun one.
Really?
Yeah, we've got, so we have been privied to some information about the upcoming Pro Tours, and we're gonna share the locations of those with you right now. So let's take a look at the next year plus worth. So the first one, a lot of us already know, Pro Tour Theros, that's gonna be in Dublin, Ireland, and this year in October. Okay, so we've got the World's Week, World Magic Cup, World Championship coming up in the summer, and then the next full-on Pro Tour is Pro Tour Theros. So that's gonna be a great event. That one's been announced already. So let's take a look at the next one. Pro Tour Born of the Gods, which, by the way, cannot wait to sit at this desk and say, welcome back to Pro Tour Born of the Gods. And that is going to be in Valencia, Spain. Now, you had a few words about Valencia, I believe, Zach?
Yeah, so no one asked me to say this. I just want to talk to everyone about how awesome the city of Valencia is. We did a Pro Tour there in 2007. The Pro Tour essentially got flooded out, and it was still the awesomest trip that I've been on in my life.
Literally flooded out? Like there was water on the ground?
Actual flooded out.
Actual flooded out.
Not mana flood. Like
not people flood.
Not people flood. Biblical proportions water welling up in the streets and the event site. It was like plenty of people spontaneously fell into pools. It was
still awesome.
Yeah, and it was still amazing.
That's incredible.
The venue is this place called City of Arts and Sciences. It looks like a giant, one enormous several block size sculpture. I have a great story of Marine Milan off the coverage team, the Euro coverage team, getting really, really excited about seeing dolphins there. It's like a Sea World on top of the tournament venue.
Wow, that's incredible.
He was like boxing out kids to try and pet the dolphins. It was beautiful.
All right, so Valencia, Zach Hill approved location.
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Let's take a look at the next one. Pro Tour Journey into Nyx. That's going to be in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
So right back here on American soil, that's going to be in May of 2014. Atlanta, a major city in the U.S., a hub of transport, travel, and commerce. It's going to be a sweet event for sure.
And as a guy from the South, you can have a good time in Atlanta.
There you
so
go.
I'm looking forward to that as well.
So he knows that one. All right, let's take a look at the next location as we keep moving forward here. Pro Tour Corset, so it should be 2014, right?
Hey, I'm not going to make any predictions.
Yeah, and this is my guess. Portland. We just had a Grand Prix there a couple of weekends ago, or last weekend.
Yep.
great little city, you know, or not even little. It's a nice size city. It's like, I think it's right in that sweet spot, right, where you don't feel overwhelmed. You know, I went to Chicago a few weeks ago, and I'm just like, I feel like I saw 2% of this city, and I was there for 4 days.
Right.
But Portland, you know, it has the things that it has, and you feel like you get a good feel for this city. It's just south of where I live in Seattle, and yeah, great place to have a pro tour.
Beer culture, microbrew culture, great coffee culture, great restaurant culture.
Lots of neck beards.
It's a hemp shirts.
So yeah, no, it's a
I mean, it's a great city to visit, and a great city to spend some time in.
Yeah, and let's also not forget that means there is a Pro Tour core set.
Yes. And you know, we announced this at the last Pro Tour, but great point, Zach. This is going to be the first of that. It's the 4th Pro Tour in the calendar year, and pretty exciting stuff.
A lot of players clamoring for the 4th Pro Tour, really wanting to bring it back. I was hoping to bring it back, and it's so exciting now that we have 4 major events per season on top of the World Magic Cup, on top of the World Championships.
Yeah, we have a busy schedule,
yeah.
boys. No doubt about it. All right, let's take a look at the next one. So this is going to show that ends. So with the Pro Tour core set in Portland, that ends that season.
Right.
So you're looking at the season there for the Pro Tours. Now, you just mentioned this, Zach, there's also the World Magic Cup, there's also the World Championship. But these are the Pro Tours for that season. We're going to show you a couple more, though. We're going to go even a little further. Pro Tour Huey, as of yet unannounced what the name of that block is. Honolulu, USA, it says. So beautiful Hawaii, absolutely gorgeous place. I've never been to Hawaii myself, but I've seen a lot of pictures and I've heard a lot of stories, and I'm pretty excited. It looks like a great place to have a Pro Tour.
Yeah, we had a great time last time we were there, not that long ago, having the Pro Tour. You walk from the venue to the back to the hotel, you know, along these Waikiki beaches, and it's just I mean, it's one of the paradise spots in the world, and it's nicely located between Asia and the U.S., so you know folks can get there.
Yep.
And we had a great time, and I suspect we're going to have an even better time since you're going to be there.
Yeah, sure.
And Marshall making it better, and Honolulu quietly becoming one of the world's great Magic cities. I mean, this is going to be our 4th Pro Tour that we've had in Honolulu, so a lot of heritage.
Yeah, a very rich history for the Pro Tour there for sure. All right, let's take a look at our last one. We've got one more for you here. Worlds Week. So Worlds Week is what we're going to be doing this summer. It's going to be a little bit different there, but it's going to be in Nice, France. So a great location. Again, it's near Monte Carlo, and I mean, just saying. And yeah, so we're going to have a Pro Tour level event on European soil there. So again, you know, you were just talking about that, Sheldon. Honolulu, easy for the Asia Pacific area all to get to, and France is nice centrally located for our European players.
Yeah, I mean, again, the middle of Europe, especially Nice in December, the weather's going to be beautiful because you're right there on the Med, and you've got this, again, great restaurant culture.
I'm going to follow you around for the restaurants. Okay. Just show me where to go. Okay, so now we have some more announcements. We've been talking this whole entire weekend about the World Championship. Now, this is the event that we call the Players' Championship before. It's a little different now, but it's basically the same event. 16 of really the elite players from the world. I mean, you have to be really good to make it to this event. And what we have, since this is this Pro Tour is the last event of the season, we are now in a situation where we can tell you a lot of the slots. There's at least one still outstanding. The winner of this event for sure gets their seat at the World Championship. But, you know, for example, Josh Utter-Leyton, Player of the Year, you know, if he wins, it can free up other slots. So there's a little bit of mixing up, but we have pretty confirmed a list here, and we're going to go through those players right now. So let's bring up the first one. It is Yuya Watanabe, and he won it last time. So, yeah, I mean, we can take a look at his stats here. He's 24. He's a platinum level player from Japan. He got second at Pro Tour Return to Ravnica. That was just recently, you know, not that long ago. He's got a couple of Pro Tour top 8s, and he's widely considered one of the elite players playing currently, actively playing.
He went into that event and took down Shota Yasuoka in the finals, and Shota was on a complete heater. I mean, this guy was
ripping that event apart.
Yeah, and then Yuya just sort of quietly dismantled him in the finals.
Right. So Yuya gets the first slot. Let's take a look at the next. Stanislav Sivka. Now, we just mentioned that Yuya came runner-up at Pro Tour Return to Ravnica. Well, this guy won it. And that's how he got his seat here. He's a platinum player as well from the Czech Republic, 25 years old, just over 100 lifetime pro points. Again, the way to get into the World Championship, there's a few different routes you can take, and one of them is winning a Pro Tour. He won Pro Tour Return Ravnica. That guaranteed his seat, and he's going to be looking to make a big splash there. As you know, he won the Pro Tour, and after that, I think he's really fully dedicated himself to the Pro Tour grind, and you know, having a big splashy win at a World Championship would really propel him into, you know, kind of the mainstay of top level players that we see out here on the Pro Tour.
Yeah, he's also a Grandmaster level chess player, by the way.
Yeah, I've heard he plays like multiple chess games.
Yeah,
He's one of those guys.
He's one of those guys that can put on a blindfold, play 6 games at the same time.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. All right, so let's take a look at the next one. We've got Tom Martell. Now, Tom, you know, we saw him. He won the last Pro Tour great gate crash just recently. He's 31 years old. He's from the United States. He's got 148 lifetime pro points, and now he has 2 Pro Tour top 8s, Paris, and then his win that he got at Pro Tour gate crash as well. He's going to be platinum next season.
Yeah, and I think Tom really looking to propel himself into kind of the, you know, the absolute top tier right here, and obviously a solid performance at this event would cement that kind of reputation. I mean, he's, you know, a bulwark at Star City Games, arguably the, you know, most powerful results putting up Magic team. Certainly one of the largest teams, with 17 players for this event. Tom, an absolute backbone of that team, and it's going to be interesting to see what they bring to the table at an event with this many top-tier players.
Yeah, you know, he's been at it for a long time, and he is definitely in that elite status now, where you put him in with the people. I'm talking about the current Magic players. You know, he's not at the all-time level yet, but he has been putting up solid results for like 3 years in a row, and if he keeps this up, he will climb that ladder. You know, so we're going to be talking about him in the upper echelon of all time.
He's a great player right now, but he's a great competitor, and he wants his name to be mentioned when it comes to the all-time greats. When Hall of Fame, you know, when his Hall of Fame number comes up, he's got that drive, that desire. He wants to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
He does, absolutely, and if he keeps playing at the level that he's playing at, he's going to get there. I think
he would get my vote.
All right, let's take a look at the next player here. And this is Dmitry Budakov. Now, this is not a player that we see out here on the Pro Tour. And this is an interesting story because he won the Magic Online Championship Series that we covered at PAX East a month or 2 ago. That's how he got his seat here. The winner of the Magic Online Championship Series gets it. We saw that Reed Duke also got his seat through that. And now Dmitry Budakov, this guy. Hard to get.
Okay.
You know, most people's goal is to win them in a season, which is about a month long. To win 15, that qualifies you for a MOX qualifier. If you win that, then you can play in the MOX tournament. If you win that, then you can play in the MOX Championship, which is held, you know, where we fly the guys in and everybody gets to play. He has 1,444. He had over 900 in a year, which is 3 a day. The guy plays a ton of Magic. I mean, we are talking about a monumental sum. And wins. And he wins. Yeah, right. And he won this through a really, really tough field, including a top 8 competitor here, Andrew Shrout. I mean, Dmitry Budakov, maybe not a household name in Magic circles currently, but if he shows up for the World Championship and plays as well as he did at the MOX Championship, he's got a shot. All right, let's take a look at the next player here. Josh Utter-Leyton, known as Raptor. He's 27 years old, he's from the United States, and he is in the top 8 currently, the top 4 currently of this very event. So, you know, we don't really need to go too far to sing his accolades since he's currently sitting in the feature match area. You know, he's going to be battling people soon. He's got 7 Grand Prix top 8s. This is his 3rd Pro Tour top 8. He's platinum. He's also Player of the Year this year.
And one of the things, we were talking about with Tom, a pillar of Team Star City Games, Raptor, obviously, Channel Fireball, another huge team, been putting up, not only been putting up incredible numbers along the last 5 years, but has really ushered in a lot of this sort of team dynamic that we're really seeing that Sheldon will talk about.
I think backbone was a word you used for Tom Martell. I'd use it here. Let's keep these moving. Next player is Willie Adel. He's from Brazil. He's been around for a really long time. The guy has 4 Pro Tour top 8s.
Yeah, right. And it's very, a lot of the time the conversation goes to Brazil. Everyone talks about Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa, who's obviously incredible. But Willie, 4 is a very large number.
We were talking about it being kind of a plateau?
Yeah.
Maybe not a plateau,
Not a plateau.
but
a kind of benchmark.
A benchmark,
a benchmark that you start considering a guy for the Hall of Fame with 4 Pro Tour top 8s.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We have Li Shitian, and he's from Hong Kong, just over that Hall of Fame threshold of 100 lifetime pro points with 101. He got 4th at Pro Tour Seattle in 2012. So this was a return to Ravnica. That was his only Pro Tour top 8, but he's got a couple of Grand Prix top 8s. He's converted on one of them, and got to respect that 73% limited win percentage this season.
And it's really easy to look at those top 8 numbers and be like, okay, he doesn't have a ton of experience, but he has 101 lifetime pro points. I mean, that's a lot of very steady, consistent results.
Exactly. All right, next one. Oh, yeah, and by the way, he was from the Asia-Pacific region. He had the most pro points from that. That's how we got it. Now we're going to go into our at-large bids. Efro, Eric Froelich, 221 lifetime pro points, 29 years old. He's from the United States. He got 4th at Pro Tour Montreal 2013. Wow. He has 3 Pro Tour top 8s. The guy does a lot of winning. Sometimes I think that he gets kind of lost in the fray occasionally of the Channel Fireball team, but he produces. He is a win-producing machine, this guy.
His win percentage at Pro Tour events this year, this past season, 73%.
That is shocking. Goodness. All right, next at large bid is going to go to Ben Stark, another Team Channel Fireball member, 288 lifetime pro points. He's been at this for quite a while. He's from Florida. He's a Pro Tour winner with 4 Pro Tour top 8s, again, including the last one. These guys, you can see these resumes starting to stack up as we go through these. Ben Stark, no stranger to the camera. We do deck techs, we do feature matches with him all the time, and he's even got a Grand Prix win under his belt as well. Let's take a look at our next at-large bid. Shuhei Nakamura. Now, he's from Japan. He should be good here on that, but it was kind of interesting because Yuya was so far ahead on pro points for the season that bumps Shuhei, who also has a lot of pro points for the season, into the at-large bid here, meaning that he's one of the others that has enough pro points this season to make it.
Yeah, I just want to point out 500 plus lifetime pro points.
Yeah,
it's absurd.
Yeah, he's certainly. I mean, he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. He came in. He can just play. I mean, at first he was he's the deck brewing genius, but he could just play Magic. I mean, and we see that now with our Pro Tours that are split format. You keep putting up results, that means you're great at Magic.
That's right. 5 Pro Tour top 8s puts him in select company, 20 Grand Prix top 8s as well. Very high on the all-time list for that. Next one, Brian Kibler. Another guy who we're familiar with if you watch any type of Magic coverage. Kibler's won 2 Pro Tours. He's got 5 Pro Tour top 8s.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, again, just like a testament to the quality of this event. I mean, this is not just another Magic tournament.
I mean, these names are insane, right? Like, I'm reading a list of all the guys we always see at the top tables here at the Pro Tour every single time.
Well, you don't just grind into the World Championship.
That's right. That's right. And he's going to be platinum next season as well. So Kibler's going to be there as an at-large bid. Let's take a look at our next slide. Shahar Shenhar, young guy, only 19, just under 100 pro points though. He was platinum this year. He's got 4 Grand Prix top 8s, and that earned him enough pro points here so that he's going to be an at-large bid for this. This is a great opportunity for Shahar to really prove himself with an elite field.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting to see how he does against the field of a lot of these players that are kind of institutions and have been for a long time. Shahar, everyone who's talking about him, especially who's playing against him in the North American Grand Prix circuit, independent circuit, is saying this guy is the real deal. And just talking to him, it's like very, very clear he knows a ton about Magic. But sort of like we saw with Reed Duke last year, I think this is Shahar's kind of
Debutante,
Yeah, I didn't want to steal
Did you want to use
BDM's
BDM's
word, but yeah, it's kind of a debutante moment for him.
Yep. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Do you want to say it?
Martin User.
Martin User picks up an at-large bid here. Again, a top-level pro, a guy that travels to all these events and puts up great numbers. 2 Pro Tour top 8s, 15 Grand Prix top 8s. You know, sort of like a slightly younger Shuhei, traveling everywhere. He has, diamond status on every airline he touches, and he walks into the airport and they're, and so he's picked up an at-large bid here from Europe. He's from Europe, and so Martin, again, another guy. This list gets absurd at some point, right? Like we can't just keep saying, "Oh, this guy's amazing." They're all amazing players, and Martin is no exception to that rule.
Yeah, he's certainly got an argument for best player on the European continent at the moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the next. David Ochoa. So the Ocho, another Team Channel Fireball member. Also, I think this is interesting because it shows how good, Team Channel Fireball is. When you zoom out, like you take any one event, who knows, right? Things can go, they can go well, they can go poorly, but I mean, we just have guys lined up from Channel Fireball that are putting up solid, consistent finishes across the year, and they're being rewarded, just like David Ochoa is here, with at-large bids to the World Championship.
Also a great mustache.
Fantastic.
Let's just not ignore that.
Like top 5 mustaches.
You see, that's the at-large invitation. It's secretly the best mustache invitation.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Reed Duke. So he's picked up an at-large bid. Now, he played in the World Championship last year, but he didn't have a good time. He felt a little off balance, I think. He made some mistakes. He really rededicated himself to working hard. He's a very hard-working Magic player, and he just keeps on plugging away, and he's garnered enough Pro Tour points so that he's got another seat in the World Championship.
Yeah, and it's really easy to kind of create narratives out of things. But last year he came in because of the Magic Online slot. Didn't do nearly as well as he'd hoped at the event, but this time he earned it the hard way.
Yes.
Of just like accumulating real-life pro points. Another member of Team Star City Games, and I think we're going to see a lot better performance out of Reed this year. I think he's kind of, he's like, okay, this is the real deal.
Well, stumbling last year probably galvanized him into a better effort this year. And I got to tell you, he won his last match on camera here to get this invite. If he loses that match, he's not going to get the invite.
Wow, what a high-pressure situation for Reed. Still young as well. He's only 25 years old, so a big future for him. Let's take a look at our last one. So this is going to be interesting. The winner of this event, I mentioned it off the top here, they're going to pick up that last seat in the World Championship. So, there's a ton more. I mean, winning a Pro Tour has never had so much upside. I mean, this seat in this tournament alone, it's worth a lot.
Yeah, it's worth a lot of dollars, and this does earn you pro points, I believe.
Right.
So, it's kind of once you get started, this really helps you keep going. And so there's a lot at stake in here, even just to sit down in a chair at this event.
Yes.
Then, of course, to pull a Yuya and win the whole thing.
That's right. And no, you're totally right. And we saw that last year. Yuya off to a huge start with pro points and was able to put up enough solid finishes to come back again. But and also because he won. But still, I mean, that pro point advantage is big for these guys. It's a career. I mean, we're talking about their livelihood here, and getting off to a big start's big. Okay, so that's it. We're going to find out who that last person is after this event is over, and that last seat will be filled, and it's going to be great.
Of course, if Josh wins, wins, that means there's going to be another at-large spot available. I guess we'll get Scott Larrabee to tell us who that might be.
Yeah, we will know who has that seat for sure by the end of the event. It'll either be the person who wins, unless it's Josh Utter-Leyton, and then it'll be another at-large bid, and we'll bring that to you. It will be made public. Okay, so Sheldon.
Zach talked about a little bit earlier about some of these super teams, and they've become super teams. There was a time in Magic history when your team was the other two people that you were playing team events with.
So the actual event was a three-man team.
Was a three-person team, and you drafted together, and you played side events together, and you did everything together as a three-person unit. Great teams like Team Antarctica with John Finkel and the O'Mahony Schwartz brothers, Phoenix Foundation with Kai and Marco Bloom and Dirk Baborowski, Potato Nation even, our own Mike Turian and Gary Wise and Scott Johns. So there was
car acrobatic team.
Car
featuring
acrobatic team.
R&D director Aaron Forsyth.
So there were teams. There were small units, and then they started growing. They started growing into teams that were testing together, that were providing broader efforts together. Brian Hacker, Truck Bowie, Igor Freeman from an unfortunately named West Coast team played together. The Pacific Coast Legends, Scott Johns again, Mario Rubina, Mark Chalice, Preston Poulter. These guys test and make a test bed. They talked on the dojo a lot. They wrote some articles, and they became a bigger thing than starting just playing events together.
Yeah.
Dead Guy, Team Dead Guy, Chris Pakula, Worth Wolper, Tony Side, Dave Price, and John Finkel for a long time was really a dead guy. We had certainly the most fashionable of the teams, Target, with Osip and Eugene Harvey and Mike Turian. And I think the team the one team that graduated from being the team that played together to being the team that tested and built together was YMG. I mean, we had 3 Hall of Famers who were playing on that same team.
Yeah.
Rob Doherty, Dave Humphreys, and Darwin Castle. And I mean, how do you get a team when you've got a guy like Justin Gary coming off the bench? It's Pro Tour winner Justin Gary, by the way. Zvi Moshowitz played with them for a little while, and Paul Rietzel started his career with the YMG guys. So we had this build into these middling level 5, 7, 8 people teams who were testing together and coming together, and then Channel Fireball just kind of broke the mold.
Yes.
And suddenly, at first there were 7 or 8, and then there were 11, and then then there are 12 or 13, and it's not just. I mean, there are a lot of people in Magic who are friends.
Sure.
And you and I might be friends, but you might not want me on Team Sutcliffe. You're like, you're a 4-2 player at every PTQ you go to. That's not good enough for our game.
Yep.
Like you just fine. We'll hang out just fine. We're friends. But for this thing, it really means you got to be at the top of your game before we're gonna bring you into the team. And there's been this kind of snowball effect of building teams, because when you have a team and you test together, it's not just about brewing together, it's about playing together.
Yeah.
And the only way to get better at Magic is to play with players who are better than you are.
Exactly.
If you're just beating up on the same guy all the time, doesn't matter. If the three of us,
not improving.
If the 3 of us drafted all the time together, you wouldn't get any better, you wouldn't get any better, and eventually I would come up to your level because I'm the only one with anything to gain from the experience. So you get into a crucible with the guys that are really great at Magic, and they hold you. There's no, oh, it's okay, Zach. You stumbled. It's like, how can you be so stupid? Why would you choose a card like that?
Right.
Why would you make that block? There's no reason. If you play like that on the Pro Tour, you're gonna get killed.
Right.
And it explodes into this multifaceted, multi-person effort. There's probably a point where it gets too large. A 22 or 23 member team is probably just too unwieldy. You split that into 2. But we see these super teams, Channel Fireball being the first, like you said, Star City being probably the largest now. We've got that amalgam 17-ish here at this event.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of success from Channel Fireball, right? That was what pushed these other teams
I think so.
to react and say, look, we've got 4 or 5 people, but we need to now compete with a brain trust that includes 12 or 13 of like the best players on the Pro Tour. They had to react, right?
Yeah, no,
because it worked. I mean, Channel Fireball had a run, that was really unparalleled.
Yeah, success in any endeavor, success gets copied.
Right.
And these guys are placing 2 guys in the top 8 or 4 guys in the top 25. Other people are going to go, I'd like to do that.
Yes.
How did they do it? They didn't do it by being Rob Castellon and brewing in your garage with your brother. They did it by, wrapping their hands around a number of great players. And imagine what a feeling it is to get the phone call from Channel Fireball or Star City. It's like, we'd like you to join the squad.
Your application has been accepted.
Right. So, I mean, we've seen this rise, and like I said, I think we've gotten this snowball effect over the last year or so after the success of Channel Fireball, and now we've got a few of these mega teams that are putting up really, really impressive results. The Team Star City in this event combined for 403 points.
Wow.
That's an average of 24 wins. 24 points, 8 wins per person on that team.
Wow.
So, I mean, we're talking Tom Martell and Reed Duke and Gabe Nassif. These guys just putting up numbers. Channel Fireball right behind them, a slightly smaller team, put up 390 points and 26-point average. So again, one guy going 0-2 drop is going to crush your team's average. So imagine if anybody faltered, your average can't be that high.
Sure.
We talked about the European Union as one of our teams when we came into this event.
And that's a more recent team.
Yeah, that was a great story. We heard Matej talk in his exit interview from his feature match about him sort of being the linchpin that brought all that team together.
Totally.
And they put up 307 points and an average of 28 points per guy. So that it's insane to think that they're playing at this high level.
Okay.
Great team names. Like Luxurious Hair from Greg Wescoe, Wilson Gone Wild with Ben Friedman and those guys. So teams, I think, like we see in the world of competitive cycling, teams might be they're certainly the present of competitive Magic, and I think they're going to be the future.
Okay. We're winding our way down here. Players are being seated as we speak. Let's take a look at the bracket to show what we're going to show you guys in the feature match area here. So we see in the first match, it was Craig Wescoe versus Andrejs Prost, with Craig Wescoe advancing with his white-green aggressive deck. In our next one, we had Josh Utter-Leyton versus Johnny Hot Sauce Andrew Shrout from Magic Online and Raptor. That's his Magic Online name. He advances. He's going to be playing against Craig Wescoe in what's going to be a real slugfest of 2 aggro decks.
Yeah, we've got 2 really quick aggro decks coming out. Josh with Boros, Craig with Celestia. Voice of Resurgence, obviously a really important card in that matchup, but that might be over real fast.
Yeah, you favored Craig as far as decks go?
I think so. I mean, again, Voice really good. He's also just got more size and Smiter and Advent of the Worm.
Yeah, just got big guys. All right, next we had Rob Castellon versus Dusty Ochoa. And we see that Dusty has advanced to meet in a mirror match of the winner between Makihito Mihara and Matej Zatlkaj, and Mihara was able to advance as well. So we're going to see 2 Esper decks built a little differently, I believe. They're not exactly. It's not exactly a 75 card mirror here, but it is a mirror match as far as strategies go.
Yeah, and a lot of the same cards after sideboarding. Slightly different main deck configurations, but as we see, the match go to a 5-game series, the post sideboard config going to matter a lot more.
Okay.
I have bold prediction in that Esper control match.
Okay.
Etherling is going to win a couple of games.
Very bold.
All right. So I'm told that we are ready right now to go back down to the feature match area and the booth. So I'm going to send it over to Rich, BDM, and LSV for the semifinals here from Pro Tour Dragon's Maze.
Thanks, guys. A great halftime show as always. Rich, BDM, Luis. So, Luis, do you want to change your pick now that we've reached the semis?
I guess I'll go with Mihara, since I still think that Esper deck is favored right now.
Okay, BDM, how about you?
I'm going to stick with Rob Castellon.
Okay, good luck with that. It's time for the semi-finals of Pro Tour Dragon's Maze 2013.